Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got banished and becomes the king of the West? Part 3. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. It's hot. Satanta said bluntly. God freaking damn it. That's it. Naruto screamed in frustration and started to beat up his friend. The two went into a big ball of violence where you can see fists and kicks coming out of the bubble cloud. Naruto came out as the victor as Satanta laid down in defeat. The two were currently in the Tagir Desert after helping Yun Yun with her quest to slay a powerful magical beast. After slaying the monster and allowing her to absorb his power, she told them about her home and other countries in the Hot Zone War Zone. She mentioned the Tagir Desert and that interested Naruto because of who lives there. The Gimma Empire's enemy, the Snakemen tribe. They're a powerful race that have strong Dukai fighters. The Snakemen are humans with the leg portion being that of a snake. They have superior bodies compared to humans, devils, and angels. The only race that are considered superior in body is ghouls and demons, but they rarely venture out of their own territory unless they are marching to a great battle. Naruto wanted to go there because of the kusanagi he has from killing Nobunaga. The sword originally belonged to them and Naruto wished to return it. He already had one in his treasury, so having two is overkill, but then again his treasury is overkill. Stop whining. We're almost there. Excalibur told Satanta. He only grumbled a couple works about the damn heat and the annoying chivalry of Naruto hold dear to like his beloved Arturia. The two finally made way to the capital of the Snakeman tribe to request an audience with their queen and to return the sword. Satanta mentioned that it was a foolish idea because they could be attacked by the Snakemen. Naruto didn't care about the consequence of his choice. All that mattered to him is doing the right thing. Scram humans. A rather large and muscled purple snakeman shouted at the pair as he sent a strike using a Dukai wave technique. Satanta jumped out the way, but Naruto stood in front of the path, letting it hit him. Naruto stood his ground without moving or flinching. I actually felt that. It wasn't much, but that was something. It usually takes a powerful magical attack for him to feel any pain when he has his guard up. This was his first experience with Dukai and he wasn't disappointed. It was indeed powerful. Satanta head back to his king's side and raise his spear. Ready for a fight. We come here for an audience with your king. He answered for Naruto. You think a lowly human is worthy of seeing our queen, scum? The purple snakeman shouted at Satanta. Don't disrespect my king. He angrily shouted at the snakeman for his disrespect against Naruto. He then gestured to Naruto. This is the once and future king. He has every right to meet with whoever he desires. Scoff the once and future king. Chuckle, don't make me laugh. That's only a legend. This man is only a fake. He commented as he looked at Naruto. Not at all impressed with his appearance. Before things could escalate, a beautiful tan snake woman with blonde hair came flying down to the other snakemen. Those wings. Not as cool as my divine dividing, but they're a show of power. A power belonging to a Duke King. Naruto took note of the newcomer. Mo Bossy. We have trouble. The snake woman told the purple snakeman, Mo Bossy. Who's attacking, you may. Mo demanded of the snake woman, you may. Humans. She said darkly as the two glared at our pair of misfits. Don't say it. Naruto muttered to Satanta as he faceted him. He knew what was going to happen. I told you so. He said victoriously with a big happy grin. Scum. He screamed in anger as he sent a powerful wave at the two. This time they jump out of the way. Wow. Calm down. We're not here to fight. We just came to see the queen. Naruto shouted at the two as he and Satanta jumped back. That's what the group of humans said before they attacked me. Yume shouted at him. Hey. We came here alone. I don't know who the hell you're talking about, lady. Satanta shouted back. Shut up, human scum. Mo sent a powerful Dukai fist thrust at them. Instead of hitting Naruto and Satanta, it hit a teal magical beast dragon that landed in front of the duo. After the blast smoke cleared, 4 people stood behind the two mage. There was a blonde, strong man that looked as if he lives in the wild and trained to be the strongest out there. Another man, but he wore glasses and had white hair and blue eyes. He looked more professional civilized compared to the blonde friend of his. Then there is an old man with a long beard, white beard. He looked like a traditional elder of someone from the east, but at the same time, not the east. Lastly, there was a woman. Naruto knew immediately who she was. Even if she was wearing a cloak to cover herself and her face. All 4 humans were Dukai fighters users. Who the hell are you guys? Naruto asked bluntly. Satanta had his gay bulk ready. Constantly switching position to fight either the new group of humans or the snakeman tribe. The wildly looking man stepped forward. Who the hell are you? You have no business here. Not liking his attitude, Satanta stepped forward towards him. Don't get a big head, Dukai user. He then started to exert a lot of mana and killing intent from Gay Bulk. having the tip spill out red blood magical energy. I have slain many of your kind already. Don't disrespect my king or I'll take your head. Seeing the situation is about to turn into a battle, the man with white hair stepped forward to calm his companion. Everyone, please calm down. We are not here to provoke matters, but rather, we have a request towards your noble queen. He told them. Naruto decided to voice his opinion. Get in line, buddy. I'm here to talk to the queen. Besides, from what I can gather, you and your group attack a member of the Snakeman tribe. If you're truly here to talk, then stand down. He ordered. Naruto changed tone mid-sentence. For the entire time, he was more casually talking to people. Now he is once again in his king tone. Who may you be? He asked politely. Like the others, he too was caught off guard by Naruto's tone. His tone gave off royalty and power, but his clothing suggested that he was a a delinquent. It's rude not to introduce yourself to this king. Sounding slightly annoyed by this man's attitude. My apologies, your majesty. He bowed. Taking his word as king at face value. His tone and the aura was enough to convince him. I'm Guhi. More commonly known as the Pill King within the Gimma Empire. I'm also affiliated with the Yunlan sect. So that is Yun Yun. Naruto thought as the present of the Yunlan sect is enough to connect the dot of their identity. He then looked at the hooded woman, who flinched slightly under his gaze. He only smirked at her, which she noticed. The Pill King, that's right. Pills. Using Dukai, medical pills can be created to increase strength, create poison, cure diseases, extend life, and much more. Something that I'm sure mother would love to do. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the ability to use Dukai or anyone else in my kingdom. I'm Naruto Pendragon. The once and future king and the king of Camelot. He declared. Surprising the other male humans. You may look surprised as well, but Mo only scoffed at his declaration again. Tell me, why do you harm those that you only want to speak to? He beepies him to see if he was lying, but couldn't see any signs. He's either really good at lying or is telling the truth. He too heard about the rumored once and future king finally showing up in Camelot, but in the endless war, people like to tell stories to raise hope. Naruto could be a story to boost morale for the kingdom of Camelot. I seek out to speak to the queen. I need something that she is in possession in. Like the queen would give you the essence flame. Yume shouted at him. Essence flame. Flames created by the essence of the world. A very powerful fire that no other fire can disobey. Naruto thought as he remembered reading about it in the archive. Even if you desire the essence flame, you had no right to attack anyone. Naruto drew Excalibur. It gave out a brilliant shine that blinded everyone except Satanta for a moment. As a king and a knight, I can't allow such crimes go unpunished. The wildly man dove straight for Naruto. I had enough of you. He prepared a powerful punch. A few feet away from Naruto, he launched his attack, making its way towards him, but it was stopped by a blue-haired man with a red spear. I had enough of you as well. Satanta charged at him. Ready to fight. Naruto raised his blade, ready for a fight. It was then that the woman, Yun Yun, charged at him with her own sword. Forcing the two to lock in between blades. Sorry Yun Yun, but I can't allow what you and your group done. She only gritted her teeth as she slowly began to lose ground. Even though she fought Nobunaga and lost, she was only a Do King at the time. Now she is a Do Emperor, and it seems that her power haven't changed because she's losing to Naruto. Why? The Snakeman tribe are a cruel race. They deserve no better treatment. Naruto won the clash and sent her back, to which the old man caught her. True, but my honor refused to let you harm the Snakeman tribe. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Luke 6:31, the Bible. I will treat anyone as I wish to be treated. No matter of their past crimes. There is still hope for a better future, and I won't allow emotions to cloud that future. Naruto charged at the two. Naruto's quote on the Bible surprised the snake men watching. They only respect strength and won't bow down to the weak. Some began to respect Naruto because he wasn't here to disrespect them or hurt them like others in the past. Before Naruto clashed with the old man and Yun Yun, a powerful energy source came from the palace of the village. Shocking everyone. Out came a purple shining light and a large purple snake floating into the sky. He started to panic as he realized what was going on. This is bad, the queen is beginning her evolution. He then noticed what appears to be a blue lotus in the purple snake. That's the essence. He then started to dive for it. Don't even try to disturb the queen's evolution. Yume shouted at Guhi. She charged at him and prepared an attack. Naruto was about to intervene, but the old man attacked him. I'm sorry your majesty, but we need the essence flame. Giving Yun Yun the opportunity to fly towards Yume and stop her from attacking Guhi. Everyone went into a brief battle with one another. Once Guhi reached the queen's palace, he blocked by an energy barrier. He grew frustrated for not getting the essence flame. Something is wrong. Naruto muttered as he sent something off with the queen. This is a rare moment and Naruto didn't have the knowledge of what is going on, but his instinct told him that something was wrong. Then it was proven right when the giant snake began attacking everyone, sending anyone close by away. The queen. Mo shouted in terror as many other snakemen. Something was wrong with their leader. Naruto walked forward towards the destruction as everyone began to flee. The power is consuming her. Naruto told Mo. Human. Is there something you can do to save our queen? He asked, almost begging. I have something. Just get everyone to safety. He nodded as he, Yume and other snake men began to evacuate the area. Satanta. He shouted to his friend, who won his battle. Thankfully, not killing the wildly man. Hold the line. He nodded. Vanishing dragon. Balance breaker. Naruto transform into Albian scale male. Catching the eyes of everyone that hasn't seen it. It inspire hope to people of saving the village. Naruto. Her power is going out of control. Albian soul fragment spoke to Naruto. The essence flame is consuming her. It will kill her soon. I know. I need to contain all the excess power. Think you can handle the power of a snake and fire? I'm a dragon. There is nothing that I can't handle. Naruto broke through the barrier protecting the queen with ease. Once he was touching the queen, he began to divide her power. Making the evolution process easier to go through without the overwhelming power. That's his power. Yun Yun muttered in awe. During their time at the magical beast forest, Naruto only showed his power with a sword. This was something else. Soon the lights died down and the large snake began to disappear. Naruto flew back to where everyone was gathered and what appeared to be the other leaders of the snakemen waiting for him to arrive. Naruto carried back a young radiant woman to them. Once he landed and dispelled his armor. Is this your queen? He asked. Unsure if she was it or not because of how young she was. Naruto is considered the youngest king, but his circumstance was unique. The queen was supposed to be a mature beautiful woman, not an adorable bordering sexy teen. Do you understand the mission? A dark voice asked. The picture of Naruto Pendragon was given to the unknown by the voice. Eliminate. Was the only word spoken by the unknown as a slash appeared on the picture. You will eliminate Pendragon when our operative begins his attack. Understood. Holy Gimma City, Gimma Empire's capital. I told you it was a bad idea. Satanta screamed at Naruto. Punching him in the face. After returning the queen of the snakeman tribe, Naruto brought out the Kusanagi and returned it to them. However, they were not happy with human strangers being on their land, but they were the one that saved their queen, so they allowed them on their land. Then the problem came with Yun Yun. She along with people of the Gimma Empire. They attacked them and they wanted retribution, but Naruto wouldn't allow that. He gave them one warning that attacking Yun Yun would make him their enemy. Naruto thought that would work, but he was wrong. They attacked both him, Satanta, and Yun Yun. The two were about to fight them to the death, but Naruto grabbed them both by the back of their collar and screamed book it. The three were chased for a few hours, but Naruto managed to fly them all out of the Tagire desert. Yun Yun was grateful for their assistance and offered them safety within the Gimma Empire. To give them time to rest and think about their next destination. Naruto got up from the punch from his friend. Satanta was against the idea of allowing Naruto to come to the empire, but now they're in the capital. This is literally the heart of enemy territory. He shouted at the blonde. How stupid can you get? I mean traveling is one thing, but traveling into enemy territory, much less their capital. They will kill you. He spoken unusually. He is usually a casual man that enjoys a good fight, but he takes his sense of duty seriously. He swore to serve and protect Naruto, but he was having trouble doing that when the idiot jumps headfirst into danger. At first it was fun and all, but there was no limit to how far Naruto was willing to risk his life for the dumbest reason. Ma. Yun Yun promise us safety here. Naruto tried to reassure him. Besides, this place is beautiful. I never seen anything like this back in Camelot. Naruto heads towards the window at their hotel that Yun Yun had them staying in. Naruto opened it to look at the floating island above the city. The island is the home of the Yun Land sect, the strongest sector guild if you're not from around these parts. I'm going to say this right now. They will try to kill you. At the very least, capture you. Satanta told him seriously. We'll be fine. He told the blue-haired mage. He then grabbed Excalibur and put her on his waist. Him going out to explore. Don't wait up. He then jumped out of the window. Satanta ran to the window to stop him, but he already disappeared into the crowd. He's such a pain in the ass. He grumbled. Streets of the holy Gimma city. Naruto walked around the city in amazement. The place was a marvel. Beautiful white building everywhere in pristine condition and the busy streets. Then there was that floating island at the center of the town, the Yun Yun told him to be the home of the Yun Land sect. Everything seems so peaceful considering that the country is technically at war with everyone surrounding them. It's a miracle that they could keep this place so nice when they're in the middle of a war. Even Camelot is nothing compared to this place. No wonder they call it the Holy Gimma City. Naruto commented with a whistle. It came at the cost of many to keep our capital and city safe like this. Naruto turned around to find that it was the beautiful white-haired woman, Yun. She came over with a smile. I came over to your hotel room earlier, only to find your bodyguard sleeping. She told him with a look that demanded an answer. She wasn't afraid of him like in the past, currently. It's like there's two people. The kind carefree idiot Naruto that has a welcoming aura, and there is the King Naruto that terrified me to the core from his sheer power alone. She thought. I wanted to see the city, and Satanta said we shouldn't have come here. Naruto answered with his hands behind his head. He would be wise. You're technically the leader of an enemy nation. She responded. True, but whoever said I was a good leader? He said as started to walk away to explore the city. She followed. Tell me, as one leader to another. She gave him her full attention. What does it mean to be a leader? After taking a few seconds to think about it. A leader is the one to lead the people around him or her. It's their job to ensure that they prosper under their care. Naruto snorted at her response. Angering her slightly. What do you find wrong with my opinion of being a leader? Naruto only continued to walk, but took a different direction. Towards the alley. By definition, that is what a leader is, but is that the true meaning of being a leader? He then pointed towards the alley. Yun looked towards to what he was pointing to. She was shocked to find what she was looking at. If being a leader mean to ensure those that follow them to prosper, then why are there children living in the streets? He asked her because the alley was filled with kids around 7 years old in dirty cloths and obviously starving, considering that they're digging in the trash can. As soon as she took a step to help the children, all the kids saw her and they ran away. Wait. She tried to stop them. She wanted to help them, but she didn't understand why they were afraid of her. I guess this is the true reason why this city is in such an amazing state when there are armies surrounding the Gimma Empire. The rich prosper, while the poor suffer. He walked over to the stunned Yun and led her back to a nearby park bench. Before I became king, I found the exact thing in Camelot. As far as I can remember, I knew that the world is a cruel place. The strong survives and prosper, while the weak suffers and die. I became strong because I didn't accept that. Survival of the fittest is one of the most basic rule of life, and I reject such a notion. What does it mean to be a leader then? She asked quietly. She thought it through about what Naruto said and knew he was right. She stood as the leader of the Yunlan sect and acts as the Gimma Empire's sword and shield. She thought everyone would be safe, but in reality, those she protected from suffering was still suffering. As a child, she suffered a similar fate like those kids that ran away. Her parents was killed from one of the thousands of skirmishes that plagued the Gimma Empire by their enemy. She felt so weak because she couldn't do anything to save her parents, so she trained hard. Hard enough to become the apprentice of Yun Shan, the previous leader of the Yunlan sect and current elder of the sect. She didn't want anyone to suffer like she did and she believed that she succeeded. However, after seeing homeless kids earlier, it shattered her. Was all of her work for nothing? Did all those lives she saved and taken mean nothing? Sure, the empire is safer than before, but the people was still suffering. She was just ignorant of that fact and believed that the empire only needed someone to protect it. I believe that a leader is someone that understands their people. The reason why I left the care of my kingdom in the hands of others is due to me not being a good king. I don't understand my people and my enemies. She looked up at him. I promised to bring peace not only to Camelot, but to the entire land. Believe it or not, but I consider these people my citizen as well. They need help like everyone. I left because I need to understand the endless war more, so I can be a proper king that protects them. I travel the land to understand them, so I can be a proper king that can understand them, so I would be able to give them a reason why they should follow me. My current self isn't ready to be king, so I left others to hold my place till I'm ready. He said with such passion. She felt inspired by him and began to understand him. She felt like she would follow him as well. Then she looked into his eyes. They were so warm that she lost herself in them. Yun, you okay? Naruto asked. He saw her turning around flustered. He was no idiot. He knew that she was growing feelings for him, but he's in a relationship with Arturia. Then again, she's allowing him to have a harem. He saw Yun as a friend and didn't harm to come to her, physically or emotionally. He would wait and see where their relationship goes. She took a minute to recompose herself. She turned around and gave him a letter. This is an invitation for the coming Receptariers competition that the Empire holds to promote peace with other nations. You told me that you want to learn more about Ukai. Being a Receptarier is the equivalent of being an alchemist for mages. This is a little biased considering I, myself am a Dukai fighter. I believe that a Receptarier is superior to alchemist. He took the invitation with a smile. I look forward to it. Thanks Yun. He told her with a brilliant smile. She smiled back as the sun shined behind him. Time skip. Receptarior competition. Naruto and Satanta arrived to the competition and was given seats at the booth where Yunyun was at. "Naruto. It's good that you could make it," Yunyun said. She then gestured to the girl with long pink hair, hazel eyes and a white slender body. "This is my apprentice and the next head of the Yunlan sect, Nalan Yanran." She was only a child. No older than 4 years old. "It's an honor to meet you, your majesty," she said respectfully with a bow. Naruto took a good look at her. His stare made Yanran very uncomfortable. "It seems that your mind isn't entirely focused at today's event, young one," he said wisely. Surprising Yunyun, while Satanta gained a smirk. He knew that Naruto was truly worthy of being a king, but he chose to be a kid and have fun. A lot like himself. It was no wonder they got along so well, they could be brothers if you listened to their banter. That statement shocked the two girls in the booth. Yanran looked down, obviously sad and thinking about something else. Yunyun came over to comfort her. "Her grandfather." Yunyun spoke up. "Her grandfather is infected with branded poison. A dangerous poison that is impossible to cure without an essence flame. His condition worsened recently." Yanran started to tear up. She couldn't stand to lose her grandfather. "Don't cry, little lady," Satanta told her. "There is always hope, just don't give up on it." Then he looked towards Naruto. "Besides, I'm sure that my king is more than willing to help." Surprising both. Knowledge of Naruto being king of Camelot was known to a few, and Yunyun made sure to let them know that he was her personal guest while here. Naruto closed his eyes and thought about the situation. "Avalon, is it possible for you to cure something as possible as the branded poison?" he asked his sheath. Avalon started to glow. Shocking the two ladies even more due to them not knowing about the sentient sheath and blade. "Are you asking a serious question?" she asked as if she was insulted. "My healing prowess can stop you or anyone I want from aging or regenerate any lost limbs or even a destroyed heart. A simple poison is nothing to me." Bring hope to the girl. "The only problem is the branded poison itself. The poison siphon the person's Dukai. He will be weak. It could be a simple weak body that needs rest to a body completely shutting down. It depends how strong the person is and how much of a fight he put up against the poison." Yanran grabbed hold of Naruto's shirt with desperation in her eyes. "Can you save my grandpa? Can you really save him?" Naruto kneeled down and hugged her. "I'll save your grandfather. That's a promise." She started to cry a tear of happiness into his shirt as he hugged her for comfort. Yunyun wanted to ask a question, but she couldn't bring herself to ruin the moment. It was so touching. After allowing the young girl express herself, Yunyun had to explain to her that they can't leave the competition. As leader of the Yunlan sect and the little leader, they had to represent their home. She understood it, but very reluctantly. Naruto and Yunyun went over to the ledge to see all the gathering competitors, while Satanta kept Yanran busy. He was good with children. "I have to tell you that Nalanjia, Yanran's grandfather, is one of the greatest generals of the Gimma Empire. Would you really heal an enemy general?" "I would," Naruto answered. "I made a promise and I intend to keep it." "Why?" She couldn't wrap her head around that answer. She understood, he was a good man and wanted to help, but to intentionally heal the man that was responsible for the death of many people across the West for his home was difficult to understand. Simple. Hate. "I'm tired of it." She looked up to him. He had a determined look like one she never saw before. Anyone could hate. It's so easy and tempting, but it doesn't do anything. It only spreads pain. Hate take control of you and drive you into ruin if a single person can help. Be nice and move forward, a lot can be done. This endless war is based on a lot of hatred. There isn't anyone willing to help each other. Show that darkness hasn't taken over the world. Show that hope for a better future still exists. That's why I want to help. A simple act of kindness can go a long way." She took a few minutes to think about it and she completely agrees with it. "However, have you ever hated anyone?" For a moment, Yunyun could see that both of his eyes were red instead of the heterochromia red and blue. "Yes. Very much. I hated my own parents. I hated the place where I was born." "How could you speak of kindness and forgiveness?" But Naruto cut her off. "I never spoke about forgiveness. I said move forward. Forgiveness is something that must be earned by intense hard work. It can't simply be given. I can't forgive my parents or my birthplace. No matter how much I hate them, I won't let that hate control me. I never had. I will say that I hate them, don't like them, they can rot in hell. But I won't allow that hate to stop me from doing what is right. I can never forgive them, but that won't stop me from helping." "What do you mean by moving forward?" She didn't understand what he meant. Why move forward instead of forgive? "Like I said about forgiveness. It's earned, not given. When I say move forward, I mean that every single one of us move to a brighter future together. For the sake of," he gestured to behind him. Yanran's mood brightened as she played with Satanta. "The children." Yunyun finished. "Yes. They're our future. If we raise them with such hatred in a world where only pain exists, they too will face our own pain. I may not have any children, but I plan on having them. Slightly making her blush as she thought of the future. Her own future specifically. If we all work together, our children won't need to hate each other. They won't need to forgive each other because there won't be a need to. A brighter future where we all live together in happiness. They too will live in happiness and will work together far better than our own generation. Then they would lead the future with even a brighter one for the next generation. And so on. An endless cycle of joy and love for one another. An era of true peace. Exactly. I plan to be the one to start that cycle, but I can't do that alone. I need everyone on this. We all want peace and happiness for the next generation, but none of us can achieve it because we can't see past our own hatred. I don't care how many will say that it's impossible. I will get everyone to look over the hill and see the beautiful sunrise that I see. Yun was stunned by his speech. She didn't expect Naruto to admit to his own hatred when he spoke of kindness to others, but his reasoning and action does make sense to her. She could see the true wisdom of the king of Camelot. A fair and just king. Willing to help, but not afraid to fight for what he believes in and will do all he can for the future. His idea of peace and kindness attracted her greatly. She couldn't deny the desire for the next generation to live without pain, but that was a fool's wish. Maybe. Just maybe. He can do it. The competition started. Naruto was memorized by them. Receptaria were amazing. Far more amazing than the alchemist. The entire competition reminded Naruto of the Chunin exam, except for the killing skills, it's for medicine. A place for countries to come together to show their skills of healing. It was a step in the right direction, but Naruto could see that it's done awfully. The competitors came from other nations, sure, but the crowd was purely Gimma citizen. This competition was more of a show of power. Exactly like the Chunin exam. He had hoped that this was a competition to promote peace and friendship instead of a beep measuring contest. At the last round, it was the competitor from the Santorin Empire and Gimma's own competitor. The receptaria from the Santorin Empire was male with orange hair and a blue diamond tattoo on his forehead. He was also beepy. His opponent is the student of the Pill King, Guhi. The same man that Naruto prevent from stealing the essence flame from the teenage Queen Medusa. What he was stealing. The Snakeman tribe got it first, and he planned on taking it while his guards fought the Snakeman. The match was going well until explosions started to erupt throughout the stand. What the hell is going on? Yun demanded. She then saw smoke started to rise up from the crowd and all around the city. It's poison smoke. Don't breath it. The leader of the Receptaria Guild, Master Fama, shouted. You bastard. Jia Xingtian, a member of the royal family and a due emperor charge at the Santorin representative. Realizing that he was responsible for the poison attack on his capital. Naruto. Yun. Satanta shouted. Naruto turned around and noticed a girl with long black hair and red eyes, wearing a white and red outfit charged at him with a long katana with a red handle. Eliminate. The obvious assassin said. Before Naruto drew Excalibur, Yun already drew her sword and intercepted her. I will deal with you, assassin. Yun easily forced her back. Yun deal with her, she's most likely part of this. Satanta, you go and get everyone to safety. Before any of them could object. Now. The two nodded and followed his order. Yun chased the assassin as she ran away, failing at her one open chance. Satanta grabbed Yan ran and took her to safety first. Naruto summoned his divine dividing wings and flew up to the sky. Avalon, can you cure everyone in the city? He asked quickly. I can, but I need a lot of power. Avalon informed her master. Alright, get ready. Naruto started to redirect all the prana in his entire magic circuits through Avalon. Ah! Naruto screamed as Avalon formed a golden sphere that quickly grew and grew. Until it covered the entire city, healing everyone. Such a great amount of magic could be sensed by the entire world. Everyone felt Naruto's power. I mean everyone, and they knew someone very powerful is out there. Some feared that power. Some look happy about it. Several days later. After Naruto healing the entire city, saving so many lives, he passed out. His healing sphere even reached Nalan estate. Nalanja was fully healed and noticed the chaos in the city and rushed over to help. The first thing he did was saw Naruto falling and caught him. Not knowing anything about him, his instinct told him to save him. His instinct never failed him before, so he brought him to his home. He then went back out to help combat the attack and organize the troops to secure the city. Everyone was shocked to see their hero up and moving about. Eventually, the Gimma Empire managed to deal with the attack. It was only an attack of poison on the city. The plan was to poison as many people to weaken the empire by the Santorin Empire. They sent in their Receptaria on a suicide mission. The only other they sent was that black hair girl that was aiming to kill Naruto, but she escaped. Thanks to Naruto, the only casualty was the poison master Receptaria. Naruto managed to cure everyone and repel the poison single-handedly. The real problem was re-establishing order after the mass panic. Satanta stood by Naruto, protecting him after he saved everyone. The old general was of course grateful to the young king for not only saving his life, but protecting his citizens. Once Naruto woke up, he was greeted by a very happy Ayn Rand. After calming things down, Naruto eventually spoke with the Gimma Emperor and several important figures. After much thanking, they offered an alliance to the Kingdom of Camelot. Seeing as their king is willing to protect their home, they would be a great ally. Naruto happily accepted, which brought joy to everyone in the chamber. Even old man Nalan was happy and giving him strong pats on the back. Even after all those years of suffering the branded poison, he fought every second and retained most of his power. Eventually. Naruto and all the warriors ran outside of the chambers to see what was going on. However, they could only see a large black object in the distance. No, Nalanjia whispered in despair. Why is he coming here? Yun shouted in complete dread. All the others started to drop to their knees and began to cry and talk about it's hopeless. Satanta. What the hell is going on? Naruto demanded. Only to see his friend shaking in fear. Something he hasn't seen ever. He's seen him scared, but this was something else. It's Acnologia. Many shouted in pure terror. Naruto saw a massive black dragon with blue patterns on its body approaching the city. He had no idea who Acnologia was, but the dragon's magical power, it was immense. Far more than his own. Deep down, he felt dread. He was afraid when he sensed the dragon. For the first time in his life, he began to feel all the hope leave his body. No matter how much he tried to hold on to hope, it was leaving him. The Hidden Leaf Village. 15 years later. The village has seen some better days. At the Hokage Tower, we find their leader, the 4th Hokage, frustrated. Slam bam. You need to calm down, Minato. Tsunade shouted at her leader as Minato destroyed his desk in pure frustration. Don't you do the same thing, Tsunade-hime. Jiraiya pointed out. Only for her to glare at him. He put his hands up in defeat. But she is right, Minato. I know the war is going bad for us, but you're the Hokage. You're supposed to remain calm and collective during war. Minato took a deep breath before sitting behind his broken desk. I know, but the war is taking the toll on me. Even with my flying thunder god jutsu, I can't fight on so many fronts. We are losing too much land. There hasn't been any fighting in the Land of Fire since the First Shinobi World War. It can't be helped. Tsunade told her as she bit her fingernail. Even if we have the strongest Bijuu on our side and two at that, we're losing because they're more like paper bombs than proper Jinchuriki. I don't understand it. But you forget. The soul of the QB acts as medium to control its destructive power. Without it, they're using all of the chakra's power all at once, instead of it being feed into their chakra coils. Jiraiya reminded them. He then turned to Minato. Did you create a powerful enough seal to contain the power, so Mito and Kushina have a chance at controlling it? He shook his head sadly. No seals I created or Kushina created didn't have the required power to hold the QB's chakra. We fail every time we try to control the chakra. I think it's useless to train them to control. I think it would be easier for them to send them alone on any mission to fight the enemy. Minato said morbidly. You can't. Not only are they family, but that plan will fail. Shinobi with Yuinjutsu training would be able to capture and contain them after a battle. There is also the fact that they are from the Uzumaki clan. They are extremely desirable for any village. Tsunade said immediately. She knew that sending them alone will save lives, but at the end of a battle, they would be vulnerable. There is also the fact of their blood. Those with Uzumaki blood are best to use as shinobi and Jinchuriki. They would be turned into breeding machines for the enemy villages. A fate she won't wish on any Kunoichi, but it was the reality of the shinobi world. She right, Minato. Jiraiya agreed with. We just can't rely on them to win this war. The Fourth Shinobi World War, Minato thought out loud, depressingly. It has been 10 years since the start of the war. 10 years of what could be called hell. It could be all traced to one person, Sasuke Uchiha. The rogue leaf shinobi turned hero of the leaf. After his defection, Konoha had no choice but to label him as a rogue shinobi. Much to the anger of the villagers of Konoha. However, his status as rogue was revolted after his actions. After training under the rogue Sannin, Orochimaru, he killed the snake after many years of training. Next, he went after his older brother, Itachi Uchiha, and killed him. Having achieved his vengeance, he returned to his home to be welcomed as a hero. It may seem nothing, but everyday business for a shinobi, but those two's death led to problems that started the war. First, Itachi's death forced the Akatsuki to start their plan ahead of time. Due to the fact of a couple of missing Jinchuriki, they couldn't start their plan to harvest the Bijuu, but with Itachi's death, they started. Villages lost their Jinchuriki to the Akatsuki. However, the hunt stopped on the 7th Bijuu. In order for their plan to work, they needed to collect all of the Bijuu in order, and the 7th and 9th Bijuu were missing, leaving only the 8-tailed Jinchuriki and the 2 unstable 9-tailed pseudo-Jinchuriki. The balance of power was thrown off completely, and hidden villages began to militarize. I mean far more than the standard shinobi militarization that is seen in time of peace, bringing great tension for all nations. The death of Orochimaru wasn't forever. He eventually managed to reincarnate himself through the use of his many subjects that bear his curse mark. Noticing the world problems, he decided to take advantage of it. He too militarized his own nation, the village hidden in the sound. He also made many alliances with smaller nations to build up his power. With all the build-up of power, it was no wonder war started. Everyone was gearing up for it, so it was a matter of time. Eventually, Konoha became desperate because they lack a proper war economy to build up their force and launch an invasion on the land of waves. A country that is one of the greatest trading nation. Suna and Kiri sent aid to defend the nation from the invasion of Konoha, while Orochimaru's alliance, Kumo and Iwa, launched an attack on Konoha's border. The reason for all their action is due to the land of waves being a neutral nation and serve as a trading nation for all nation. None of the other 4 of the 5 great nation could allow this to happen. It will affect their own economy. After the failed invasion, the 4th Shinobi World War officially began. The land of waves survived the invasion thanks to the great shinobi villages, but to their disappointment, they remained neutral in this conflict. Kiri and Suna remained neutral in the war as well. Kiri recently got out of their civil war and didn't have a powerful enough military to fight a war and protect themselves. Suna saw no reason to join because they knew that they were constantly facing problems due to their harsh desert home, so sending their shinobi to fight and die seems pointless in the war. Mainly, those 2 villages serve as aid for smaller countries that were forced into the war due to the fighting taking place in their home. Orochimaru's alliance, Kumo, Iwa and Konoha were the main power in the war. They all fought each other because of their own issues with one another. Orochimaru would try to convince the Raikage and Tsuchikage to work together to fight Konoha, but due to Iwa's lack of Jinchuriki, it made it hard to work with one another, mainly Kumo who held most of the power. Mainly due to the lack of trust. It was a godsend for Konoha, but they were still fighting on multiple fronts. "Sensei, what do you know about the Kingdom of Albian?" Minato asked Jiraiya. Jiraiya wasn't surprised for him to ask about it. It was the hottest topic for the last 5 years. The kingdom over the wall. Everyone was interested. "Not as much as I like," Jiraiya said frustratedly. About 5 years, a portion of the Great Wall that the Sage of the Sixth Path created came down. To the shinobi, something like that was the very definition of impossible. They thought it was the second coming of the Sage of the Sixth Path. Never in their life they would assume anything about the wall happening because it was indestructible. The portion that came down was in the land of winds. Almost immediately, Suna secured an alliance with the newly found Kingdom of Albian. To their pure shock, the west side of the wall contained all kind of life. Many being non-human, to the fear of the public. Everyone wanted to know about the west, but very few learned the truth. After the cementing an alliance between Suna and Albian, a black fortress was built to monitor those that crossed the border. Effectively making it very difficult to form communication between the west and east. The only way to reach Albian was through Suna or one of several nations that joined the kingdom. The only well-known fact about Albian is that they were in an endless war that lasted longer than the shinobi's earliest history, and it only came to an end recently due to the prophecy of the once and future king coming true. A prophecy that had several shinobi rethinking. Such nations that gave up their own sovereignty to join the kingdom were the Land of Waves, Land of Spring, Land of Demons, and Land of Vegetables. There were shinobi villages that joined the kingdom as well, due to their lack of power, such as the remnant of the Land of Sky and the Nadeshiko village, the village made of Kenwaichis. Those 2 shinobi villages completely moved to the west where territories were given to them. The last village to join the kingdom, instead of forming an alliance, were the village hidden in the waterfall and the village hidden in the stars. The only shinobi villages to remain in the elemental nations. Of course, the king of the west was a kind and just king, so he left those nations and villages to govern themselves, but still need to report to king by having an ambassador in the capital, Camelot. Many of the shinobi villages were afraid of this takeover from the west. Especially when they saw how Albian provided troops and technology to each nation and village that joined or allied with them. The protection that the king sent were there to protect the nation, not serve in the shinobi corps. They were a military power meant to protect the citizen, instead of working for them. Iwa thought that Albian was an upstart nation trying to take over the world, so he launched an attack on the Land of Vegetables. The Tsuchikage and the rest of the world learned the might of the west. The magic that shinobi laughed at showed that it's far stronger than their jutsu, and the new form of warfare that they provided completely changed warfare. The use of airships was something they never saw. An airstrike of magical cannons from the ship proved to be too much for the shinobi that were incapable of fighting back due to the distance and power. Since that day, everyone feared and respected Albian. Of course, that didn't stop the shinobi from infiltration missions to the western nations part of the kingdom. Fortunately or unfortunately for the shinobi, most infiltration failed, and those that succeeded ended with technology that they were unable to use or learn from. They couldn't understand that prana and chakra are two different things. Nearly all my spies that tried to get into Albian failed. That damn ghost suppression fortress. Jiraiya said loudly as he slammed his fist into the wall. The black fortress built between the land of wind and Albian is impressive, preventing all form of illegal entry to the other side. There were stories that the fortress was named the Ghost Suppression Fortress because they prevented the dead from crossing. Of course Jiraiya didn't believe in ghosts, but it seems there is more to it than meets the eye. And when my spies do make it and come back, they don't even recognize me. Surprising the other two in the room. Did Albian place memory seals on them to make them forget? Minato asked as he was familiar with this kind of work. No. I check and there is no seals on them. I think it's their magic. He spat out. He didn't like magic. He thought it was all bullshit and the people were too stupid to know what was chakra, but it turns out that he is the stupid one. I only hear stories of an organization from my spies in nations part of the west. Like the Akatsuki? Tsunade asked seriously. She blamed them for the start of the war due to their desire for the Biju. No. Jiraiya shook his head. I heard it's called Oni. Demon? Minato translated. Yes, but I don't think it's what the names imply. I think it's a counterintelligence organization. He answered. So they kill spies? Tsunade asked. It was the best way to prevent information from reaching their enemies. Yes and no. I think it's more. I think they not only act as a spy system for Albian, but also prevent anyone to learn anything. I have reports of my own spies returning to the west. Never returning. Jiraiya explained. That was a dangerous piece of information. Both Tsunade and Minato knew what that meant. They flipped their own spies. Oni either promise money for them or they use magic to brainwash them. Neither options were good and only prove how dangerous the Kingdom of Albian is. Even if they are dangerous, they are only hope to win this war. Minato declared heavily. We both know that trying to secure an alliance is nearly impossible, Minato. Tsunade shouted. They refuse to speak to the majority of the elemental nations. That might be true, but they are still our best chance to win this war. Also, the Chunin exam is coming up and Suna is hosting it and Albian is invited to watch the event. Jiraiya told them. Bringing their hope up. And due to international law, the Chunin exam is considered a place for a ceasefire, so we can gather more clients. Every nations would want to participate. Mainly for the fact that the king and queen will be attending. It will be the first time that any of the Kages, besides the Kazekage, meets the leader of the West. I heard stories about the king, not much, but enough to know that he's extremely powerful. So we have a plan. We gather our best genin for this exam and try to impress the king. I'll convince him to help us. Minato said with a hint of hope. Be careful, Minato. Tsunade warned. Every Kage will be doing the same. He nodded, understanding the situation. So who do we send to the exams? She asked. We need to send our best. I can demote several shinobi from the Konoha 12 so they can be eligible for the exam. They might not like it, but this will be considered a S-rank mission. Minato answered. He knew that he needed the best and the genin he had were fresh out of the academy or dead. Most genins of all nations in the war were facing similar problems, so they might do the same thing for the exam. I pray to God that this work. Even the prophecy turned out to be bogus. He said depressingly. With Jiraiya nodding. Both men were putting all their eggs in that basket and it turns out that after rumors of the king and the once and future king prophecy, the great Toad Sage made a mistake. Their supposed child of prophecy was actually the once and future king and he saved the world. It just wasn't the shinobi world. Camelot, Kingdom of Albian. It's a beautiful dawn in the capital city, Camelot. There was tall monolith buildings as far as the eye can see. Skyscrapers as high as the eye can see. Streets filled with vehicles never seen before. Airships traveling in and out of the city. The city's design was nothing ever seen before. It was so foreign to the normal structures of both in the elemental nation and majority of Albian. To the unprepared, people would assume that they landed on another world or in a different dimension or something ridiculous. However, others would say that the city is modern. There was one building that stood out from the rest, if you could believe that. The building was quite obvious as it was a mix of a large skyscraper and a castle. It stood out in design, but still fit in nicely with the rest of Camelot. This place is the Royal Palace, more commonly known as the Citadel. At the top of the Citadel, in a bedroom that screams royalty, we find a blonde man and woman that looks to be in their early 20s. In reality, they were really in their early 30s, but due to a certain magical item, they remain young and youthful. He woke up, revealing a red eye and a blue eye. This man is Naruto Pendragon, the once and future king. The king of the Kingdom of Albian. He then turned to the sleeping woman with an impressive bust. She is Arturia Pendragon, formerly Britain. Queen of the Kingdom of Albian. He remembered last night activity and decided to let her to sleep longer. There wasn't a single woman capable of keeping up with his stamina and sex. Maybe in fighting, but definitely not sex. He got up and got dressed in his usual clothing. A simple blank pants, a blue casual long-sleeve collared shirt and a pair of boots. Once out of the room he found a tall beautiful young woman with short white hair, tanned skin, and golden green eyes in a black maid dress. Her figure made the maid dress look far better. She smiled as he approached herself. He then gave her a kiss. Oh, did I forget that she has a rabbit tail and rabbit's ear in the shape of horns? Morning zest. Naruto said lovingly after parting their kiss. After a moment for recovery. Good morning, your highness. She said as she gave a curtsy. You may wonder why the married king kisses simple maid. A demon at that. The reason is simple. She is one of his many wives. Throughout the course of his life, Naruto fell in love with many women, and the fact that his girlfriend, Arturia, allowed him to have his very own harem, he has a lot of lovers. When he became king, he married every one of them and named Arturia as the queen because she was the first to ever show him the feeling of love. Some had a hard time accepting that, but they eventually got over it. All his wives and their extended family were now considered part of the royal family. Majority of them living in the citadel. Zest was originally a demon servant to one of the demon king's general. He goes by the name of Zolgir. A demon general with high ambition. He was planning to assassinate the demon king that was too distracted by the war. Naruto's military advisor told him it would be better to allow this coup to occur. Including Meliodas, the demon king's son. However, Naruto was a knight and his honor wouldn't allow such treachery to occur, so he went out of his way to personally deal with Zolgir. Although he helped the demon faction, it didn't change their desire for world domination. After Zolgir's death, Naruto found Zest. A creation of Zolgir in an attempt to bring back his lover. Zolgir failed to bring her back because Zest was created, so he kept her as a servant. After several attempts on his life, Naruto proved himself to Zest that Zolgir was wrong and that she should live for herself. His words, being created by magic doesn't make you less than anyone else. It was there that she decided to serve Naruto for the rest of her life. Are the kids up yet? Naruto asked Zest. As she and Sakura are the one to usually take care of Naruto's children. Naruto and the majority of his wives are important figure and have a busy life. Making it hard for everyone to spend time together. Mordred already left with Yan Ran already. Saying that they have band practice. Zest answered. Mordred Pendragon. The first princess of Albion and firstborn of Naruto, being born from Arturia. Mordred was an exact copy of Arturia, but she inherited her free-spirited personality from Naruto. Arturia had a hard time teaching the 15-year-old girl how to be a proper princess knight. Since the war ended, children that trained themselves to become warriors had a lot of extra time nowadays. Yan Ran is Yunyun's apprentice, and Yunyun did marry Naruto. The entire Nalan family were close with the royal Pendragon family. Yan Ran referred to Naruto as her uncle. After the war and a decrease in training regiment, she decided to spend time having fun. She made friends with other kids her age and was close to Mordred. Later, they formed their own all-girl band, Girls Dead Monster or Girl Demo for short. It's a popular band, and the fact that they had a real princess to get better gigs didn't help. Makoto has left with her mother to attend their training session. Zest finish. Makoto Pendragon, second princess of Albion. Daughter of Rin Pendragon, formerly Tasaka. Makoto has chestnut hair, chestnut eyes, and is often seen wearing a small hair clip. Her appearance stems from Rin's and Sakura's mother, but her personality is more of a mix between Naruto and Rin. Makoto is short-tempered and prideful like her mother and express herself to the fullest that seems tomboyish like her father. However, what really sticks out is her powers. Unlike Mordred, her older sister by a few days, she has magic. Her magic is heavily focused on controlling electricity to frightening degrees. Most likely due to the combination of Pendragon's and Tasaka's blood coursing through her veins. These two half-sisters were born on the same week because they were conceived during the same night. Mordred became a knight much like both of her parents. Her magical abilities is limited, but that doesn't make her weak. She is proficient with her holy sword given by her father, Clarent. She also learned her mother's magic spells and techniques. On the other hand, Makoto learned how to control her power of electricity from her mother, Rin. Her control over electricity easily rivals those of that use Slayer magic, maybe surpassing them. She is known as Railgun due to her signature move. The use of electricity to propel a metal projectile at an incredible speed with devastating damage. The technique she developed with the help of Azazel of the Fallen Angels. The Fallen Angel. The angel that fell and their pure white wing turned pitch black. They were one faction that fought in the Endless War and the later dubbed Unity War. He was one of the first faction to join Naruto's faction once Naruto began to prove himself. Naruto smiled at Zest's information. Thanks. The girls are definitely growing up, he said with a chuckle. She smiled as well. They are, but do not fret. She grabbed his collar and brought him in for a passionate kiss. There are still many of us that loves you that have yet to bear a child. We only wait for you, Naruto, she said seductively. Then she left while swaying her hip. Naruto was memorized for a moment. He then started to chuckle. What a woman. Naruto then head towards the elevator teleporter. Naruto decided to head up to the roof's balcony. Out there he stared at his city. Hard to believe that this was once a wasteland. Naruto thought out loud. To learn about what Naruto meant, we need to start at the beginning. 15 years ago. The moment that the history book stated was the Unity War. Something he could agree with. After all, he was there for the first battle. The battle with Acnologia. The most feared being in the world. Acnologia attacked the holy Gimma city. Naruto along with the city's defender fought valiantly against Acnologia. The battle that was considered a victory. Well, a Pyrrhic victory. The city was destroyed and a lot of people died. However, they survived and that was never heard of before. After the battle, all the survivor made way to Camelot where they were welcome and Naruto returned to take command of his kingdom. Of course news of their survivors spread. The story only contributed to Naruto's reputation because he was the prophecy's once and future king. There was the simple fact that no one survives Acnologia. Period. This news was worth the attention of everyone in the West. The black dragon that terrorized the world couldn't wipe out a city. It was unheard of. The only time that this happened was when Acnologia challenged both Dragon and Albian. He was able to match one of the heavenly dragon, but not both. To survive Acnologia is a sign of great power. A power that made everyone focus their attention on Naruto, Pendragon and Camelot. Naruto began to mobilize his army to protect all of Camelot and the territories that joined them. Before any actual full-scale battles, something unexpected came. Well expected from Camelot's court mage, Merlin. The angel faction came to Camelot and offered their full service to Naruto. As the once and future king, the chosen hero by God to lead humanity, the angels went to serve the one favored by God. The angels are a unique creature. They are creatures created by God. To serve God. One day, God decided to separate the spirit and body of the angels. Sending the bodies to the mortal world while leaving the spirit in the afterlife. They were sent down to learn about life and live for themselves. Although they live amongst them, they still held on to their love for God, so their knowledge about God's prophecy meant a great deal to them. Which in turn gave Naruto a powerful army and good friends. The first great battle, not including the battle of the holy Gimma city, was with the devil faction. A faction that originally came from the angels. Like the fallen angels, devils fell, but became more twisted and darker. The first fallen, Lucifer led his followers to start their own faction that will be known as the devil faction. Their power was great that they managed to create their own dimension like the angels. They created their own version of the underworld like how the angels created a replica of heaven. The fallen angels lived on earth with the rest of the race. The reason why devils weren't as powerful as their counterpart that God created, demons, was due to their own inner problem. They mainly fought amongst themselves like demons, but far more. Demons are creatures of darkness, but devils are creatures of sin. They fell to their own sin which made them inferior to the demons. The battle was a success for the United Army, Naruto's army. The devils lost many of their kind and retreated back to the underworld. The next battle was one that the United Army lost. They faced off against a large demon invasion. The demon clan took heavy loss, but won at the end. In turn, they gained a lot of territory and races were under their control. After the loss where Naruto was regrouping which his generals, the Sontaran Empire, sent their greatest general, General Esdeath, to attack the weakened Camelot. A battle that Naruto, Archangel Michael, friends, and the 7 deadly sins countered by themselves. They forced Esdeath's army to retreat. Since that day, Esdeath fell in love with Naruto due to his brilliant tactics and power. The day where she swore to make him hers. Before any more danger facing Naruto, a few more faction decided to join Naruto. Azazel and his fallen angel was one faction that joined. They may have fallen, but they were still angels and had some love for God. The majority of the leadership of Grigori were tired of all the war and deaths, so they joined Naruto's attempt to end the war. Of course there was the hope that their father wasn't wrong about Naruto. The other faction that joined were the fairies and a few more territories that once belonged to the Gimma Empire. With Gimma Empire's capital's destruction, the entire empire fell apart. But the newfound strength, Naruto and his generals were able to launch multiple attacks and invasions. They hit both the demon clan and devil faction. Their weakness is light magic, a form of magic that is common with the angels and fallen angels. Naruto led a campaign to reclaim the rest of the Gimma Empire that was claimed by the Santorin Empire, eventually taking out the empire itself. Not without help, of course. Naruto ran into the assassin from the holy Gimma city. She was the empire's best assassin, Akame. Akame of the demon. Her sword, Murasame, is a demonic sword with the ability to kill with a single cut. The sword has a powerful curse where a cut from it will send a lethal poison to the one that is cut by it. Naruto changed Akame and she fought for him. She, along with others that were tired of the empire's oppressive nature, fought against it and fought for Naruto. During the campaign, Akame fell in love with Naruto because he was able to change her sister's mind and save her from her deteriorating body. In the last day of the war against the Santorin Empire, Naruto challenged Esdeath to single combat. A challenge she lost and was imprisoned by Naruto. After the successful war against the corrupt empire, more people joined Naruto. He was actually bringing hope for people. Many of the Yokai faction joined Naruto and surprisingly an old friend joined. Taka Kirishima, the first ghoul Naruto met. She was leader of a large group of ghouls that was part of the reform faction of her race. Then came an attack from the ancient Dukai clans. These ancient clans held blood belonging to the first Dudai, a rank that the person becomes a mortal god. Anyone having the blood of a Dudai coursing through their vein, they became very powerful, very quickly. This being the ancient clans. An attack led by Xiaoyan and his wife Shun'er. The battle were intense, but with the help of Yunyun, they managed to force them away. The battle would continue for the rest of the war. Eventually, Naruto managed to change Xiaoyan and his wife. They were raised to hold on to the old ways, but Naruto convinced them that the world is going to change with or without them. They, along with a great deal of clan members from the Gu clan and Xiao clan, joined. Soon came that they surrendered. When someone surrendered to Naruto, they don't die or be imprisoned unless they committed a grave crime. The clans were allowed to live and practice their way, but had to adhere to the laws that Naruto set down. Later, Naruto and Satanta form a powerful friendship with Xiaoyan, where these three became best friends. They were commonly called the Three Idiots by their friends' family or the Three Stars of Camelot by the public. Battle after battle. Lost after lost. The war dragged on for years. Many began to lose hope for the end of the endless war. Eventually, Naruto decided to rethink about their prisoner. Naruto managed to flip a good amount of them, including Esdeath. Which she and all the other reform monsters led Naruto's army to victory against the remaining factions that refused to change, the Devils and Demon Clan. However, the Devils faced civil war when the people wanted to end the war and join Naruto. The old Satan faction wanted to continue the fight, but with Naruto's aid, he managed to win the civil war for the new Satan faction, where new leaders took up the title of Lucifer, Leviathan, Asmodeus, and Beelzebub, then joined the United Army. These four were Surzich's Lucifer, formerly Gremory, a very powerful devil, known as a super devil. His power was able to destroy countries like Naruto. He also became a good friend. Ajuka Beelzebub, formerly Astaroth, another super devil, but his true power came from his mind. He was the one, along with Azazel, to create a grade of modern technology that Camelot have today. He even created synthetic human flesh for ghouls to eat, and these meat had more flavor and a different variety of them than actual human flesh. Becoming one of the leading scientists in Naruto's scientific division. A division that helped build the education system. With their help, Naruto made an education system where all children were required to attend school at the age 4 for 7 years. There they learn English, math, science, history, etc. Later they chose where to go at age 11. They go to a training school for mage, knight, Dukai, and etc. or a normal school where they continue to learn more. This education system gave the chance for children to be safe and happy while learning about the world. Something that Naruto didn't have in the Shinobi Academy where they were mainly taught how to be a shinobi. Shinobi didn't teach anything unless it involves how to be a shinobi like biology for knowing how to kill. Albian Asmodeus, formerly Glaciolabolas. Not a super devil, but he's a strategic genius that won the new Satan faction a lot of battles and later on for the United Army. Seraphol Leviathan, formerly Citri. She was not the most powerful devil, but she is the most powerful female devil and has great control over ice. She later acted as head of foreign affairs. She would later fall in love with Naruto and marry him. Becoming Seraphol Pendragon, where Surzich's wife would take the title of Leviathan later on, so she can officially be known as Surzich's wife instead of maid. Last came the Demon Clan. They launch a last-ditch invasion on Camelot, where the Demon King led personally with the rest of his general. The battle lasted for weeks and destroyed Camelot, but the United Army won at the end where Meliodas killed his father and became the new Demon King of the new moderate faction. Naruto was able to save a lot of citizens, but failed to protect his castle. He had to move the survivors into the ruins of the villages surrounding the castle of Camelot. It was there that things turned for a worst. Acnologia showed up. Naruto had all his friends and his army to abandon the ruined city of Camelot and himself and run for their lives. Including the two heavenly dragon, Albian and Drake, even if they were stronger than the black dragon. He wanted to face Acnologia alone. All protested, especially his best friends, but at the end Albian and Drake force everyone to follow their king's order. Alone and facing a being capable of destroying the world. Naruto knew that this will be the last battle of the Unity War. He was happy. It was going to end with a bang. Just like how he wanted. Well, enough joking, he had an actual reason why he wanted to face Acnologia alone. He heard stories from village elders and from Michael, Azazel, and Surziches about how Acnologia once was a human dragon slayer. He desired to protect the weak and innocent from dragons and other powerful race. However, like most first-generation dragon slayers, they lost themselves to their power. They died or went crazy, and unfortunately, Acnologia went crazy. Naruto wanted to reawaken that heroic man. Acnologia was consumed by his own power and had no one to save himself from Sasuke. The battle lasted for nearly a month. In the head, Naruto beat some sense into the man-dragon and he remembered who he is and stopped fighting. That the entire surrounding area was a massive crater, but he was redeemed and later joined to help Naruto build a better future as a good friend. The war was finally over. Over 1,000 years of bloody war and it was finally over. The nightmare ended. The prayer for victory were answered. The Kingdom of Albian was finally born. Naruto and everyone else led a massive rebuilding campaign all over the West. Starting with a massive crater that was known as Camelot. With wizards like Zest who had powerful terrain magic rebuild Camelot and all other devastated land all over the West. It was then that they started to focus on moving forward, like how Naruto told Yun all those years ago, and they did. They all moved forward and were able to rebuild Camelot. Better than ever before. On the day that they finished rebuilding Camelot, they held the ceremony for crowning Naruto as King of Albian. The reason why he named it the Kingdom of Albian because it was Albian, the vanishing dragon that gave power to Naruto to help fulfill his dream. Naruto then used Drake as the symbol of his kingdom and red as the color of his knights. Even the pentagon crest, a crest to symbolize the royal family, is based on Drake. It's been one hell of a long journey. Naruto said out loud after thinking about the long and bloody past. Naruto. A woman called out. She wore a dark sleeveless mini dress with a white collar and a red tie. She wears a red belt that has a red side skirt cover with red gauntlets. All over a black trench coat. She also wears it with long black socks and black shoes. This young and beautiful woman is Akame Pendragon. Oni's co-director. Naruto formed Oni as an intelligence organization that reported to the king. One that gathers intelligences for Naruto and prevent any from reaching the ears of dangerous people. They are spooks and damn good ones. The reason that Oni was created is due to the fact that Naruto knew that something dark will arise under Naruto's rule and in the future. The endless war came to an end, but conflict will still rise up. Mainly from the elemental nations in the east. Naruto knew that he and his family would be a beacon to shine hope to everyone. He would be casting a very large shadow for his enemy to gather strength. Oni was the demon that hid in the shadow of the beacon to eliminate anything that threatened the beacon itself. Naruto brought Akame in for a kiss. It's been too long. You work too much. I don't get to spend time with you as much as I like. She smiled. I know, but I won't allow anyone harm you. No matter what. Just make sure to come back home in one piece. She nodded. So what do you have to tell me? Seeing you in your working clothes. He eyed her. It didn't look bad on her. It also acted as her casual clothes, without the gauntlets and coat. My agents are reporting that the shinobi are becoming more desperate. More are trying to get past the ghost suppression fortress and infiltrating our territories in the east. She reported to him. Damn warmongers. Naruto growled. He knew that they would become a problem. Even if they were so weak in comparison. The Chunin exam is coming up soon and Gaara invited us. I plan on dealing with them there. She nodded and walked up to him. She then placed her hand on his crotch. It's been a long time that I had any quality time with you. She said with a seductive tone. It seems that all his wives wanted to have sex today. He laughed a little as he began to take off his shirt. Not caring if they were doing it out in the open. No one would see on top of the citadel. No, you haven't. Kazekage Tower, Suna. Damn that man. Gaara, the Kazekage muttered at his desk. Behind towers of paperwork. At the corner of the room, Kankuro could only give a small laugh at his younger brother's situation. Ever since the start of the alliance with Albion, Gaara had to deal with the endless stack of paperwork that needed his attention. All the changes and trading that came to his home was far more than he expected, and the upcoming Chunin exam being hosted in his home made the stack grow exponentially. It's not all that bad, Gaara. I mean, look at our home now. He gestured to the window behind him. The scenery was something you wouldn't expect in a desert. There was actually vegetation in the village. In the form of grass, trees, plant and more. As well as a lake inside the village. Of course, with this new idea of green in their sandy home, they had to expand and expand greatly they did. In comparison to all the other hidden villages, Suna is the largest. Calling it a village would be inaccurate now, as it was more of a city. Of course nothing like Camelot, but still a city. Gaara could only scoff at his brother comment. I know that it's thanks to Naruto that our village prosper like never before. He then took a short break and looked out the window with his brother. His mages were able to change the very environment of not only our home, but portions of our country. The once desert country that depended on others for the trade needed to survive, now we have the ability to survive on our own. Then there is all the trading with Albion and their advanced technology. I'm grateful for that air conditioner machine. Kankuro said as he went up to the vent that blew in the cool air into the room. Something that his brother completely agreed with. Hell, that magic barrier over the entire village is lower the temperature to a nice 70 degrees Fahrenheit. A nice cool temperature considering when the average temperature of the land of wind is usually above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm more grateful for the forceful change to our culture. Gaara muttered. Kankuro sadly agreed with him. Ever since Naruto broke down the wall between his country and the West, Gaara welcomed them with open arms. After a reunion and a very long story, they went into diplomacy between the two nations. The first and foremost is the children's rights law. Naruto couldn't accept the entire child soldier way of life that the entire elemental nation use, so the first and foremost is to change their culture to address this issue. Many of Suna's counselors were split on this decision. Gaara himself agreed with Naruto, due to him being a WMD as a child. Some counselors had children and didn't want their children to die early like so many in the past. Naruto threw in the incentive of providing weapons, technology, and soldier to Suna in exchange to this change. In the end, they agreed to the demand due to all the benefits, such as FIREARMS weapons that anyone could wield. So adults without chakra were able to join the military to defend their home pills made by Receptarier that proved to be far better than any chakra-based healing, and airships for the use of aerial warfare and transport. However, Naruto wasn't going to destroy everything. Naruto offered them their way of education for the Shinobi Academy. Children would be going to school for a longer period so they could become strong and enjoy the life as a child should. The new laws for Shinobi Academy is that they only take in children at the age of 11 and will graduate at 17 when they are legally adults. At the age of 17, they would be legally allowed to join the Shinobi Corporation. Many of the older generation was wary of the change, but in the end it proved to be far better than the traditional way that Hashirama Senju created. All their genins were as stronger than other villages' Chunin. The entire school system was copied from Albian's school system because it was more humane and efficient. Many parents were grateful for the change. So who are we sending to the Chunin exam? Kankuro asked seriously. Akame called yesterday and told me that all the other villages are sending in Chunins and Jonins that were demoted to Genin so they can show their power to our friends. He said with air quotes. Gaara closed his eyes as he thought. I expected them to do something along those lines. He then walked to his desk and placed his hand on a crystal ball. It wasn't a normal crystal ball, it was a communication lacrima. Lacrima are crystal that are filled with prana magical energy. Ever since the end of the Endless War in the West, they managed to transform lacrima into useful technology. Sir Eren, would you come to the Kazekage Tower? Of course. Responded the lacrima that contacted Eren. Eren was the leader of the soldiers that Naruto stationed at his village to protect it. The main purpose of the garrison is to protect the village and country and help maintain the new technological advancement in Suna. They wouldn't be part of the active shinobi force of Suna, they were more of a backup army for emergency. Eren was one of many knights belonging to Albion. Naruto warned him that Eren was a newly graduate of the Academy of Chivalry, a school that trains children into becoming knights, and he had potential to become great. All he asked of Gaara was to give him a chance. A little lesson on the position of knights in Albion. To become a knight is no easy task. The Academy of Chivalry has 90% of its students becoming a washout, but due to the curriculum for all schools to teach, they were able to find an alternative career. When one becomes a knight, they join the military of the Kingdom of Albion, known as the Crown's Guard. Depending on their skills, they are sent to different division of the Crown's Guard and are usually assigned highest ranks for an enlistee and sometimes the warrant officer rank. Eren showed up in a few minutes since the call. Lord Kazekage. He kneeled. It was the proper way for a knight to address Gaara. Thank you for coming. I'll get straight to it. The Chunin exams are coming up and I want to know if it's possible to install a DTB into the arena. He asked. Gaara was referring to damage damper barrier, a magical barrier that lessen all form of attacks. DD barriers were used primary in schools, military bases, and tournaments to prevent accidental crippling attack or death. Of course, Lord Kazekage. It will take only several hours to properly set up one. I will only need to the level of reduction. He knew that the Chunin exam was another way to say advertisement, just in a more sick and bloody way. It's a disgusting tradition that they uphold in many of THEIR citizen of Albian opinion. However, since Suna has changed greatly, he tolerated it. He knew that the Chunin exam needed a certain level of flair, so he couldn't use the DTB at his desired level. You're aware of the strength of chakra? Gaara asked with a bit of hesitation. It was a bit of a sore spot because he knew that chakra can never match up to Dukai magic. Eren nodded. Good. I need the level to be able to prevent any deaths from high-level jutsus. I would also need to decrease the strength of weapons of all kind to non-lethal level. It will be done, Lord Kazekage. He then dismissed himself to meet up with mages to set up the barrier. Gaara then took a seat at his desk, preparing to resume all the paperwork. I'll send in members of Scorpion. Surprising Kankuro greatly. The Scorpion is an elite group of academy students that showed great potential to be allowed to participate in missions for Shinobi. Another thing that Albion school system taught them. Are you sure? I trust your judgment, but they are academy students. Sure, they have some experience, but still students. Kankuro wasn't completely sold on the idea. It made sense because they were the best of the next generation, but they weren't part of the Shinobi Corporation yet. Then again, they could be assigned a mission to take part of the upcoming event. They will be facing up against war-hardened Shinobi. That is why the DTB is going to be installed. I have faith in their strength. You cannot deny their strength. Gaara replied. Kankuro couldn't disagree with their power. If their power level was compared to their old system, they would easily qualify for Jonin rank. Their strength showed how effective the new school system is. An increase of strength, morale, and most importantly, lives. The Chunin exam's purpose is to showcase the next generation's power. The other villages are using this chance to showcase their current generation's power to Naruto and Arturia. I know it won't impress them, but that won't stop the other Kages. So, like what Naruto says. Trust in the next generation to do what is right. To which Gaara nodded. He was going to trust members of Scorpion to showcase the new Suna to the rest of the elemental nations. I'm going to trust you on this, little brother. Thank you. I still have several stack of paperwork to finish and the genin teams will be arriving in a few days. I must prepare housing for them and any chance that they may sabotage our home. You're on a time limit then. Haha. I guess I'll tell you a secret that Naruto told me to keep as long as possible. Kankuro said with a chuckle. Gaara only rose his non-existing eyebrow. Naruto told me that he uses one of the very few jutsu that he knows to finish all of his paperwork. The shadow clone jutsu. Clones apparently sends back memory to the original, so having clones do paperwork isn't much different than doing it yours. A wave of sand appeared from behind Gaara. Kankuro booked it after seeing his angry brother. That bastard. Gaara said darkly. A few days later. The group from Konoha are the first to arrive. The group consisted of Minato, Kushina, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Danzo by his insistent due to his route being an important force that kept Konoha alive. Along with an escort of Konoha shinobi to protect the VIP. The genin that are meant to participate in the exam are the Konoha 12, Mito, Sasuke, Sakura, Lee, Niji, Tenten, Shikamaru, Ino, Choji, Shino, Kiba, Hinata, and in addition to the 12 from Danzo, Sai. These genin all fought in the ongoing war. In comparison to the average genin, they will be significantly more powerful. Something that they planned. Suna truly has changed. Kushina commented as the large group are now in view of the village hidden in the sand. What kind of buildings are those? Kiba shouted as he pointed towards the few skyscraper. One barring the village's symbol to act as the Kazekage Tower. That thing is huge. You can touch the heavens if you get to the top of it. Almost everyone nodded in agreement. Danzo only clutches Kane harder. Jealous of their newfound power. Soon, Konoha will no longer be the weakest, but the strongest after stealing all we can from this worthless village. He thought darkly. He has plans for his stay in Suna, and it will be taking as much advantage of them possible. Can you feel that, Minato? Jiraiya whispered to his student. Yes, but I can't tell what it is. Minato answered back. I think it's one of Albian magical barrier. I felt this in all other nations that joined that kingdom. He told him well he remember all the failures to gather information on the west. They will be watching us closely. Us being here days before the exam is very irregular. Kages and other important figure arrive on the last days of the exam. Yes, but I believe that the other villages will do the same as us. If you fail to gather information on Albion, then there is no doubt in my mind that they too failed. We will be seeing the others soon with the same purpose as us. Gathering information. To which Minato nodded. The group eventually arrived to the gate of the village. The entrance was no longer opening in a wall, but a beautiful gate with lush greenery to welcome travelers. Minato noticed the youngest Kage ever to be waiting at the gate with a few people. Which none of them didn't look happy to see them. Kage Dono, I see that your village has prospered under your reign. Minato tried to butter him up. Do not try to avoid the situation. Why are you and your group is here? We only expected the genin teams along with their sensei to arrive. Not the VIP group that would arrive on the final day being here before the exam even begins. Gaara said harshly. He wasn't in the mood to talk to the Hokage. He already knew why they were here, but it was better to hear it from the source. I'm sorry Kage Dono for us arriving so soon. I'm aware that we should be arriving on the last day, but with the fourth great shinobi war, I couldn't risk the safety of my genin. Minato gestured to the genin. We are simply here to protect them from a potential attack. He came up with the excuse for the irregular arrival. Such a protection detail wouldn't require a Kage. He countered. As well as the rest of your S-rank shinobi. Only a few would be needed. True, but Konoha wouldn't allow their own be in danger. Something that Kankuro scoff at. I, as long with my wife, Tsunade, Danzo, and Jiraiya came as protection. We can't allow any harm to come before them on their journey. Kankuro decided to comment on his excuse. Then Naruto would still be around if that's true. Causing Kushina, Mito, and Hinata to flinch. Naruto was a very sore subject for them. Minato however saw Naruto's death as for the greater good of Konoha and felt proud that his banishment and eventual death benefit them. Only if slightly. No one bought that excuse. Now they are here. You and your escort could return home till the final Chunin exam day. Which will be in a month. There was a large gap for many valuable people to make time to arrive on the day. Minato gave a nervous smile. I was hoping that you will allow for us to stay. Suna used to be an ally of Konoha. So did the Uzumaki clan. He interrupted. The Uzumaki clan is still alive. Kushina shouted. Angry at his implication. I'm sorry Ms. Namikaze, but I speak of the clan that formed their own village. The same village that was allied with Konoha and fell when Konoha refused to aid them in their greatest need. It was one of the reason why I severed our alliance because myself and many on the council felt that we won't receive aid from you when a far stronger village that had more to offer Konoha failed to receive aid. Causing many, but a few in the group to look down in shame. It was that fool, Hiruzen that failed our allies. Surprising everyone because it was Danzo that came to their rescue. During the Second Shinobi War, he prioritized on focusing the war effort in the Land of Rain, so the war won't reach the Land of Fire. However the war did reach the Land of Whirlpools, and our forces were focused on the other side of the elemental nation. Their destruction was inevitable. He answered as vague as possible and placing blame on his old friend. Tsunade and Jiraiya were getting very mad at the bandage man. They knew that was partially true, but they also believed that Ichi Danzo had something to do with it as well. That may be true, but I still don't see any reason why you should be allowed to stay. As a Kage, your schedule must be far busier than mine due to the war. Gaara told them emotionlessly. He knew that Danzo was good at shifting blame. It's only courteous that you allow us to stay. Danzo answered with a step forward. Gaara only rose his non-eyebrow at this action. We are shinobi. He told the old man. That was more than enough an explanation. Courtesy isn't part of being a shinobi. A long silence lasted for a few minutes after that statement. Danzo seemed very frustrated, but not at his words. At something else. However, what it means to be a shinobi is different in Suna now. We have evolved since what the first Hokage created. We are better. He took a jab at them. The comment obviously got to them as many of them were angry and look ready for a fight. I will allow your group to stay till the end of the exam, but now that with your absent, your village will suffer without their leader. Minato looked happy at the outcome. Have no fear Kage Dono. I have faith in my village. The will of fire is strong within them. The gate started to open to allow the guests to enter. However they were greeted with a man with long white hair. The man wore a simple pair of dark dress pants and a white-collared dress shirt, completely buttoned up with a blue tie hanging from the neck. Over this, he dons a trench coat with a white border. On his trench coat was a black symbol in the shape of an odd shield with a knight in the center and surrounded by swords. His facial expression gave off a feeling of strict and professional. I have an objection to this act of kindness Lord Kazekage. The man spoke up as he walked towards the group. The Konoha group didn't recognize the accent of his. A few deduce him to be from the west. Invul. Why do you object to this action? Gaara asked the man now known as Invul. He finally approached the group outside the gate. Many of the Suna shinobi stiffened and stood up straight. As if they knew who exactly this man is. He gave a slight bow towards Gaara, with one arm crossing his chest in a diagonal direction. I do not disagree with your action, but with one of the people you're allowing entrance. Are you speaking of the Toad Sage? Gaara asked. Causing said Toad to stiffen. He was planning to gather information, which could be potentially dangerous. Of course Oni is already ahead of him. Invil shaked his head. I speak of the darkness shinobi. He glared at Danzo. Danzo didn't falter as all eyes were on him. I'm sorry. It's rude of me to not introduce myself. I'm Invil Yura, one of the once and future king's Kingsglaive. Also one of his personal advisor. Shocking all of the Konoha group as they didn't expect to see someone so high up in the government of the Kingdom of Albian. After several seconds for the news to wear off. Is the Kingsglaive a special force, like the Anbu, of the Crown's Guard? Jiraiya asked. He managed to gather information about the Crown's Guard being a standing army with the sole purpose to protect the Kingdom of Albian. Unlike the shinobi who only serve as a protecting army when the village is in danger or when the daimyo declare war on another nation that requires their aid. The shinobi act as mercenary, assassins, and even prostitute at all time unless those conditions are met. Invil shook his head once again. You are technically incorrect. The Kingsglaive are an elite fighting force that serve the royal family. It's true that we have great influence in the Crown's Guard, but the Crown's Guard are meant to protect the kingdom while we serve and protect the king and his family. Only the strongest are allowed to join. He then walked closer to Danzo. Still distrustful of him. If a sensory-type shinobi would focus on Danzo, they could sense a fluctuation of chakra in Danzo's bandage eye. I understand how you feel Invil and I understand that you're doing your duty, but my answer is final. Gaara told him. He was not going to revert what it means to be a shinobi. As you wish. Invil sighed in recognition towards Gaara's action. He quickly brought up his hand and cast a spell, and an ice collar appeared on Danzo's throat. Forcing everyone in Konoha group to get into a stance as they believed they were going to be attacked. Some of the guards lunged at Invil. Gaara and the others didn't react. They knew if Invil wanted to end them, none of them could stop him. He was simply too powerful. In an instant everyone became very cold and the few shinobi guards that lunged at Invil were frozen in midair. Soon they came crashing straight down and smashed themselves in millions of pieces. The action shocked all of the Konoha shinobi, so they would react by forming a defensive circle around the VIPs. All of them has a pure shock and scared facial expression. Such an attack with ice has never happened on this level. It was simply impossible to create such feats in an instant with any ice jutsu that belonged to the dead Yuki clan. Invil however didn't flinch during the entire counter-response. It seems that he expected this to happen. He then turned towards Gaara without batting an eye towards the dead shinobi he just killed. I'm sorry Lord Kazekage, but I can only agree with this course of action if the ice slave is cast upon the darkness shinobi. With that he left back inside, disregarding everyone. Danzo fell to his knee as he began to clutch his head with his one free hand. A few shinobi went towards his side to check on him. What is the meaning of this? Is this an attack on us? Kazekage Minato shouted at Gaara as he seemed prepared for a fight. Along with a few others ready to back him up. Are you going to allow the death of my shinobi go unpunished? That's a declaration of war to us. Gaara didn't seem to be fazed at the accusation. I apologize Hokage Dono, but I will not do anything because it was your shinobi's action that led to their death. Invil only defended himself. If you have a desire to drag my village into your war, that would mean you will drag the Kingdom of Albian into this war as they are our allies. Causing their leadership to freeze at the notion. The annihilation of a large battalion of shinobi from Iwa was still fresh on their mind. Minato could do the same, but the difference is in the way they died. Minato simply teleport to all the kunes that were in place to kill them all, while the West would use their airship to bomb them to oblivion. Aerial warfare would beat his teleportation because he simply couldn't throw his kunai that high in the sky, while they would bomb their village without breaking a sweat. My hands are tied. What do you mean? You're the Kazekage. Shouted Sakura in anger. Hokage was supposed to have control over their shinobi. She clearly doesn't understand the shinobi political system. That man isn't a shinobi. He isn't part of Suna, so I have no control over him. I can't act against him because I simply lack the power and I also agree with his action. Gaara responded. Shocking all of them. You clearly don't know who you were dealing with. Kankuro stepped up with a smug smile. Happy to see them put in their place by Invil. Invil is part of the Kingsglaive. The weakest member of the Kingsglaive has the power to destroy an entire military nation single-handedly. Bringing in fear to them more. Invil is one of the stronger of the group. Danzo got up and tried to speak up but found himself unable to do so. Until he finally decided to ask a simple question instead of a convoluted speech to attack Invil and Suna verbally. What did he do to me? He demanded angrily. Invil cast Ice Slave on you. Gaara answered. He wasn't completely sure why he cast such a spell, but he knew that Danzo was dangerous enough, so allowing him into his village for a month could be extremely detrimental to his village. This was probably the best way without a 24/7 watch team on the man for a little over a month. It's a magical spell that suppresses one's free will. However, it could be altered to a certain degree. If I have to guess, Invil altered it so that any attention to harm my home or the West will lead to losing the ability to form any coherent thought. He took a glance at Danzo, who looks absolutely livid but wasn't able to say or do anything. I hope you all enjoy your stay in Suna. Please don't cause any trouble or Invil will be forced to intervene. But that he went through the gate with his guards. I say that a winter general left you off easy. Kankuro commented, referring to Invil's title. After reading the biography of the Kingsglaive, he knew that he was a master strategist and one of the strongest ice mage. He then began to walk away. Wait! Shouted Jiraiya. Kankuro turned back to see everyone began to take a less aggressive stance, but anyone could tell that they were terrified to their core by such Invil's power. If the Kingsglaive served the king, why is he here? The king isn't supposed to be here till a month. It was simply too early for the protection of the king to be here, so early like them. It could be thought of an advance party to secure Suna so the king wouldn't be in danger, but Jiraiya had to be sure. Haha. So you noticed that? Kankuro said with a sheepish chuckle. The reason he's here is to protect Gaara and myself. Confusing the Genins, but the others understood right away. You see, we are part of the royal family now due to Tamari marrying the king. Shocking all of them. You could hear someone saying troublesome in the background. An arranged marriage? Kushina asked. Looking angry at the thought, but it was a little hypocritical considering that Konoha practiced such an action. Kankuro shook his head. No. Tamari is the ambassador for Suna to Albion. She eventually fell in love with the king and he married her. Jiraiya started to giggle perversely as he began to write into his small notebook. Only for Tsunade to hit him. He then recovered and got serious. Any information on the once and future king is helpful to them. So the king married her for power. Is she the queen then? He shook his head once again. No, on both account. The king already married many women, but from what I understand, they all fell in love with him as they fought together in the Unity War. Unity War? Minato asked as this was the first time he heard of it. He did learn about the West being in an endless war much like their own, until his predecessor, Hashirama, created a way to end war. Of course that backfired and made it much worse than ever before. The West is far bigger than the entire elemental nation. There is also so many different species that isn't human, so the king went out of his way to unite them, instead of conquering them. It called the Unity War because the king went out of his way to create a world where they can live together in peace. Kankuro answered. He then start to think back to all of Naruto action during his time around the world. I could understand why the once and future king is worshipped as a god. That man truly creates miracles. With that, he left them to think about what they heard. 1 month later. Over the month, the other villages arrive with their respective competitors. Along with the leaders which only risen the tension because of the war. However, Invil was able to keep all the Kages in line after a small demonstration of the power of the Winter General. All of the Shinobi village started to gather as much information as they could from the West, and they were successful. Bookstore, theaters, convenience stores, hell even toy stores. All were a source for information because of the heavy trading going on with business in the West and in Suna, where many products and their history were being widely loved in Suna. Overall, if this wasn't a mission for the shinobis of other villages, then this would be a nice vacation. However, there was one person that was absolutely livid with the situation because of he wasn't able to do as he please and his constant failure to get rid of a certain ice collar only increased his hatred for the West. Said angry man got tired of not being able to do anything and left the day after he received the ice spell. However, the Kages and other high-level shinobi were extremely skeptical about the information. The talks of demons, devils, angels, yokai, ghouls, and much more sounded like a fairy tale. However, things changed when a few snakemen showed in Suna. Shocking and scaring many shinobi. It seemed that there were truth in them, but that frightened them more. All the story sounded like battles between gods, and they were planning to manipulate a god. What shocked people the most, in a reasonable sense, is the Chunin exam because it's usually the home village that have the most genins in the exam, but it was less than a dozen shinobi, and they were all academy students. Of course, they were informed that these students were all part of the elite students, the Scorpions. All of the other shinobi that took part of the exam looked down on them and made fun of them because of their age. Most of the students were 16, but by the shinobi system standard, you should be a Chunin by that age, but they were still students. It angered the elite students, but they remembered their training and knew it was greater than theirs. They only lack experience. Something that was only given to them under supervision. When the exam started, they were all shocked. While their own students failed and some died, all of the Scorpions passed the exam. Hell, this year's final was going to be the biggest due to the large number of genins passing. The finals were only a few days away, and word was that the king and queen would be arriving today. So that meant a massive gathering on the main road leading west, as they would be arriving via car. Everyone wanted to see the king and queen of the West. Of course the other Kages and Shinobis were in the crowd as they weren't allowed to be part of the Suna greeting party that consisted of Gaara, Kankuro, a few important members of Suna, like the elder siblings, a few knights of Albian, and Invil. On the horizon, an object that were trailing dust could be seen by everyone. The object brought up a lot of confusion due to not knowing what they were for the crowd. However, Gaara and Kankuro knew what they were. They were a vehicle, called a car. Such things were common in Camelot and other cities and were usually used for transportation for either the general population. However, this car wasn't the general cars that you see every day. They were the very definition of luxury as the beautiful convertible approached closer to the village. It has a black color with a red dragon design on the side. The car is the most expensive car currently in the market and only the richest could afford it. When it got closer, many people could see the occupants inside both car. In the black car, a beautiful blonde woman with a rather large bust and emerald eyes sat in the passenger seat, while another beautiful woman with long red hair and golden snake eyes drove the car. In the back seat were two girls that looked to be the age of 15. One looked like a younger version of the blonde woman, but her attire was nothing like the older blonde. The older blonde wore a blue dress and a golden crown that screamed royalty, while the younger girl wore a long red coat with red trims and black shorts. To top it off is a red scarf and her hair tied in a ponytail. In all, she seemed pretty normal compared to what seems to be her mother. The last girl has chestnut hair and eyes. She also has a small hair clip and wore a tan shirt with a black skirt. It was clear that the blonde woman is the queen. However, due to the entire party being female, that brought up one question. The two eventually arrive in front of the greeting party. The blonde woman exited the car with the two kids in the back following suit. The greeting party took a bow. "Welcome to Suna, Your Majesty, Lady Medusa." Gaara welcomed them. He then noticed that there was one person missing. "Is the king not coming?" he asked. The queen, Arturia Pendragon, could only give a strained smile. "My husband had other business to take care of, Gaara." "Business?" Gaara asked. "That idiot got pulled into Seraphol's TV show." The Redeed, known as Medusa, spoke up. It was then that the other passengers in the other car converged with them. "Magical girl, Seratan?" asked Kankuro. Due to his and Gaara's relationship with the royal family, they knew every member of their extended family. Seraphol is an eccentric devil with a love for entertainment. With her position as one of the king's wife, she started a kids show, known as The Magical Girl, Seratan. The show is a hit for many children around the world. To which both women nodded. Invil took a good look at the car they arrived in and had only one question that needed to be addressed. "Lady Medusa, isn't that His Highness's car?" Her eyes twinkle with a hint of mischief. "Of course it is. I consider this proper punishment for him missing this event." She knew that he would be absolutely furious of losing his baby as he called the car many times. "The king won't be happy about that," Kankuro told her. During his time in Camelot, he knew that Naruto spent a lot of time on that car and didn't like anyone messing with it. "Ha! As if father would do anything," shouted the young blonde. "Princess Mordred." Invil approached and bowed to her, then faced the other girl. "Princess Makoto." He gave her a neck bow as well. "Sup, Invil?" Mordred casually greeted. "Lord Invil." Makoto greeted respectfully, unlike her sister. "I believe that it would be wise to continue this inside," Arturia announced and started to head into the village. To which the group began to follow. Medusa tossed the keys to Invil. "Try not to scratch the paint. You wouldn't like my husband angry," she said while laughing. Invil knew how angry the king would be, but wouldn't do anything serious because of his love for his entire family. He sighed and handed the keys to one of the knights to transport it to a secure location. The crowd did their best to get their attention during the entire conversation, but clearly were ignored. The shinobi were able to listen when they enhanced their hearing. The crowd began to disperse. Konoha's hotel room. In the room are the Hokage and his wife, along with their teachers, Jiraiya and Tsunade. The other Konoha shinobi were in their own room or out relaxing before the big day. The other Kages most likely followed their lead. "Was there any information that you were able to gather?" Minato asked the group, seeing as the information gathering when the royal family arrived proved to be fruitless. Jiraiya looked solemn. "Not as much as I can. Any information I look for directly on the king is missing. I can't even find his name except for the name Pendragon. I researched it, it was given to the king about he took over Camelot." Jiraiya grumbled. It was like all the information on the king besides tales of his power wasn't in the village. He theorized that Oni had in hand in this, but that only gave him a migraine because that would suggest how powerful and efficient they are. "I only found some very questionable information." He then pulled out a book with the king's glove symbol on it. He opened it and eventually presented the page to the group. It was the picture of the same man they recently saw. His name is Xiao Yan. Head of Clan Xiao and a powerful Dukai fighter. "Dukai?" Minato asked in confusion. Don't you mean magic? The teacher shook his head again. I thought so at first. Magic is considered the spiritual power of an individual, while Dukai is considered the physical power. However, both crosses over to each other during my research. It's all very confusing if you ask me. It sounded like chakra, but it's clearly not. He then looked at Tsunade. He knew what she would be looking for. As a medical shinobi, Tsunade spent her time researching about anything about the West's power. Especially how certain energies interact with the body, like how chakra affects them. I haven't spent enough time to get a complete understanding, but I understand the basic of each. I can see some similarities to chakra. Magic works similar to how chakra works. Mages have a magic container in their body like our chakra coils. Then they use ether nano or magical particle energy to fuel their magic spells like how we fill jutsu with chakra. The only real difference is that chakra is physical and spiritual energy of our body, while magic is purely spiritual. How come it's so powerful? Asked Jiraiya. With a few run-in with Oni in the elemental nations and his attempt to infiltrate Albian's territories in the east, he was overpowered by their mages. He only escapes due to experience with such situations. I can't be sure, but from what I read, the physical energy weakens the spiritual energy because spiritual energy is too much for us to handle. On the other hand, mages are able to handle that power. She said grimly. Then Minato's face brightened. If that's the case, that means we have a chance to use magic. If we can learn to separate our spiritual energy from our physical energy, we can use magic. He was already thinking of this information would be able to save Konoha. Tsunade shook her head. Don't get ahead of yourself. It's not that simple. If we are to do that, we'll get a powerful genjutsu. What do you mean, Tsunade-sensei? You said magic is purely spiritual energy. How come will we get genjutsu instead of magic? Kushina asked. Because it's has been done in the past. Anytime we use purely spiritual energy or yin chakra, we get powerful genjutsu. It's not magic. I think it's because of our chakra coils. I believe that our chakra coils forces a small amount of physical energy or yang chakra into the jutsu, so our body won't be destroyed. It must be an automatic defense part of our chakra coils. Upsetting all of them. She was sad too about not being able to learn magic. Moving on. Dukai is actually a lot more like chakra, but the foundation is completely different. It does use physical energy more, but there is a connection with the soul, not the spiritual energy. By training the body, you train the soul. Hence becoming very powerful. It's an indirect way of combining physical energy with spiritual energy. Then there is the power level system and skills of theirs. Apparently there are levels and sub-levels for a Dukai fighter. You start off as a beginner. After training, you would have to level up 10 times, then you would reach practitioner. That's where you can start using the power. After ascending to the next stage, you would get an immense boast of power and a new skill. But be forming armor with your Dukai, forming wings, teleportation and so on. Dukai was much simpler in her eyes, but as she read, training was both physical and spiritual. You need such things as meditation, body condition, connection with life and nature. In all, it was similar to Senjutsu training, but far more difficult, but with more benefits. Let's get back on track. Xiao Yan is currently the leader of the entire Kingsglaive because he's at the highest level of a Dukai fighter, Duke God. Something that I don't buy until I see proof. The kid seemed weak to me. However, the book talks about him being on the same level as the king in terms of power. How powerful is the king exactly? Minato asked. That is where he grimaced to the question. According to a few other books, there was a battle between the king and a guy called Acnologia. Xiao Yan and a few others are about the same level as the king and Acnologia. The two fought on the last several days of the war. He then turned to Tsunade. Tsunade, do you remember that massive earthquake a few years ago? Yes. It killed many villagers and shinobi. We weren't the only one affected by it. The entire elemental nation was affected. It's a mysterious event. The entire elemental nation would be hit with a big earthquake and end after an hour or so. Then we would be hit with another. It went on for a week. Why does that matter? Her eyes narrowed at him. She was really hoping he wasn't implying what she was thinking. Because according to the book, that earthquake affected the entire West as well. It affected the entire world. Surprise due to the earthquake would have a very high magnitude to affect the entire planet. According to the book and a few other sources, the battle of the two happened when the earthquake started. A minute of silence passed. That's impossible. Tsunade shouted as she slammed her fist into the table in disbelief. Shaking the entire world because two people fought is simply impossible. Even with all the Bijuas together, they can't perform such a thing. Destroy a country, but not causing an earthquake on a global scale. Not for an entire week. Even if that was true, a battle with two powerful beings can't last that long. My grandfather and Madara's battle only lasted 3 days and only created the Valley of the End. There wasn't any natural disaster that came with their battle. Her denial sent a deathly chill to the other two in the room. She wouldn't accept anyone being more powerful than her own grandfather or in battle being more devastating when he fought against Madara and the Nine Tails. Hashirama was considered the god of shinobi for a reason because he was capable of such power and destruction. If he was a god, then what was the king be consider if anything she heard was true? Silence reigned. No one wanted to continue the train of thought. It would only get worse if they did. Who are the children? Jiraiya asked because he wanted to change the subject. Minato took a deep breath after realizing about what was being implied about the king. From what I heard, the two girls are daughters of the king. He told his teacher. I heard you're addressing them as princesses. I heard about those people from the locals. Apparently the queen is Arturia Pendragon, the queen of Albion. However, she strikes me as someone familiar. That blonde brat as well. Tsunade thought out loud. Her eyes then widened and she brought out the bingo book and turned to Konoha's bounty section. She then placed the book in front of everyone. It's her. She shouted. Everyone look at the book and realize in horror. The picture was over 15 years old and showed a blonde girl with emerald eyes. The picture was almost an exact copy of Princess Mordred. The only difference was the hairstyle and clothing. It was clear to them that the queen was the same girl from 15 years ago. How? Minato shouted. This was really bad. If any Konoha shinobi attack the princess, mistaking her for the lie he created about her mother, then war will erupt with the entire West and a most likely end to everything the Endured read sacrifice for Konoha and the shinobi world. It doesn't matter how, we have to inform our shinobi about this and prevent anything from happening. Tsunade shouted. She grabbed Kushina and ran out in an attempt to prevent a diplomatic incident because Konoha shinobi were known to be zealots for their village. This can't get worse. Minato groaned. It can. Jiraiya muttered. If she is the queen, then Saber is most likely the king. Minato realized the implication. His eyes were filled with horror. The king and queen were already aware of Konoha and their deception from their last encounter, 15 years ago. How they got past the wall and ended the war was irrelevant at the moment, but it was clear that an alliance would be impossible because of their own past hostility towards the royal rulers. Things couldn't get any worse. Both thought. It seems that their past action was coming back to haunt them. The adults all gathered together to head to the Kazekage Tower to speak about their current problems and other issues that needed to be addressed. The children were allowed to explore the city. Mordred was in charge of watching her two younger sister. At first they enjoy exploring such a city. It wasn't like the city of Camelot or Academy City, another advanced city that contained the very best schools meant for the privileged and gifted. However, that day ended when a group of Konoha shinobi surrounded them and claimed that she was under arrest for desertion. Something she ignored and the children took their leave. Unfortunately, they didn't get the message, so they attacked the group. Mordred and Makoto easily forced them back. Bastard. Mordred screamed as she punched the Konoha shinobi that was charging at her younger sister. You think I'm going to let a scum like you hurt Makoto? During her childhood, during the war, Naruto always told her to be there for her sister. That it's her job to protect her younger sister and any other sibling she may get in the future. So an attack on her family was one of the worst mistakes someone could make in front of her. Stand down, traitor. One shinobi shouted. Father was right about you guys. You're too stupid to alive. With that she summoned a large two-handed sword with a red handle. What was impressive was that she was able to hold such a large sword with one hand, despite her size. Capture her. The leader ordered. Mordred's smirk only grew. Makoto. She called out to her. Stay back. To which she did. Makoto knew that her older sister is a little scratch, that she's very bloodthirsty. Although she never fought in the Unity War, she did ended up fighting and killing at a young age. That problem was something that Naruto helps her with by teaching her on the importance of life and why it's worth protecting. Plus, she was never okay with killing people. Beating them up, yes, but killing was something she couldn't accept, so it was heartwarming that her big sister was doing something she isn't ready for. In a blink of an eye, she easily cut them apart with her use of prana burst, a technique developed by her mother, which allowed the user to fill themselves with prana, which would increase their all-around strength exponentially. Is this all you are capable of? The survivors started to back off. A few seemed to prepare a jutsu, but what is going on here? Everyone turned towards the sound of the voice. It was the Queen of Albion and Mordred's mother. The crowd that was watching the event instinctively bowed to her due to the regal woman's aura. Although she has an emotionless face and spoke in a neutral tone, her eyes held her fury of a lion. A few days later. After the incident with the attack on the first princess of Albion, Konoha had to face the queen's wrath. She insulted them about their lack of discipline, way of life, past deeds, and gave her overall opinion about the Hokage and his shinobi when she hinted about remembering their past relationship. The most terrifying thing that the leadership of Konoha found was that she did this in a calm tone and with an emotionless face. They felt all the anger, but she once never displayed such an emotion. Konoha was given a choice between paying a heavy fine or imprisonment of their Hokage. It was an obvious choice to made. The event made the other village happy because it was obvious that Albian would most likely go to war than form an alliance with them. Now came the Chunin exam final. The Kages sat at the Kage booth with Arturia and Medusa sitting next to Gaara. Many of the Kages, except the Hokage, spoke with the Albian group to learn as much as they can. They told them about the Unity War and their role within the kingdom, which shocked that all four held a very important role to the entire kingdom. Lady Medusa. A fellow redeed, Mei Terumi, the Mizukage asked out to her. Medusa faced her with a bored expression. The finals didn't impress her. They had some flashy moves, but it lacked any real power to make it exciting. Are you in Uzumaki? This got all of their attention, except Arturia and Gaara. Red hair is a rare trait, and it was known to be an obvious feature of those with Uzumaki blood. She thought that she was in Uzumaki because she believed that due to their Fuinjutsu, they might have found a way over the wall, but wasn't sure. She only had Medusa's hair color to make such a connection. She could only give a haughty laugh. Don't compare me with someone so weak. Minato narrowed his eyes at her. She was basically calling his wife weak in his face. The Uzumaki clan was anything but weak. It took the power of 3 nations to destroy them. Lenoki told her before Minato could vent out his opinion on the matter. You kids give no respect to the elders. He muttered. It was true that his village was one of 3 that took part in the Uzumaki clan's destruction, but he respected them. Oh, so a child thinks he has a right to lecture me, she retorted slyly. Do I look like a brat? He shouted at her. How disrespectful. He muttered. Agreed. You're quite disrespectful. Before he could respond, she started to glow. Once the light faded away, the 4 Kage's mouth dropped to the ground. Her lower body was that of a snake. Do not think that I'm inhuman. Don't let my appearance fool you. I'm the queen of the Snakeman tribe. I choose to look human because it's a sign of power for my kind. I reached to a level of Dukai where I'm able to alter my appearance instead of disguising it like your kind. They nodded to her statement. They didn't expect her to be something that wasn't human. It surprised them as they couldn't imagine love forming between someone else that isn't with their own species. The 7 then continued to watch the finals. Each of the Kages would ask a question about their home or about how they feel about their villages. Arturia handled it gracefully, not giving too much information while depicting her home as an utopia. The battles between the Genins went on quite well in the Kage's opinion. Many Suna's Scorpion students lost their battle, but they nearly defeated their opponent. It was obvious to everyone and shameful because students with no experience in war almost defeated a war veteran. The daimyo saw the immense potential in Suna Shinobi and began to make plans to build relations with them. That boy has no honor or respect for his opponent. Arturia commented on the current battle. It was between the last Suna student, Shinki, Gaara's adopted son. He may have been adopted, but Naruto recognized him as his nephew and is quite welcome in the West and popular in his home. His opponent is that of Konoha, Sasuke Uchiha. His arrogance will be his downfall. He has too many openings and isn't taking the match seriously. My nephew would hold the advantage in the opening of the battle. She beepies. Much in agreement with the other Kages. They knew that the last Uchiha is experienced and powerful, so it was expected when fighting students, but in the shinobi life, one moment can cost your life. When looking at Shinki, they could tell he has immense power for his age and was quite skilled. He was carefully beepizing his opponent when his own opponent wasn't paying any attention to what he believes to be an easy win. The battle started as expected with Sasuke launching a barrage of shuriken, to which Shinki raised his iron sand to block. Shinki started to launch his iron sand at Sasuke. Sasuke was able to easily dodge them, so he kept on dodging to show off his superior skills. However, that would prove to be a mistake. Shinki was coordinating his attack to where Sasuke would jump into his desired spot, an area with iron sand ready to trap him. Sasuke never activated his Sharingan, so he never saw what would be coming. He was instantly surrounded in an iron dome. Before he could react, the dome began to crush him. Ah! He screamed out in pain. Only for a moment later, lighting began to cut the dome apart. Sasuke easily freed himself, but he was injured. His eyes roared in anger with the Sharingan flaring as he charged at Shinki and launched a barrage of slashes from his sword that was coated in his lighting chakra. Due to the DDB, none of the attacks were lethal, but it was painful to experience. Shinki did his best to fight back, but his body could only handle so much electrical shock before falling. When Shinki fell unconscious, the referee was about to call the winner, but Sasuke held the boy up by the neck. His free hand has a Chidori ready to end his life. Stop! The referee shouted. Only to be ignored. Sasuke then aimed his arm towards Shinki's heart. However, he felt immense lighting going into his body. The jutsu dissipate and Sasuke jump back. To everyone's surprise, Makoto stood over her cousin, Shinki, and she doesn't look happy. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded of Sasuke. Many people were shocked at the action of a princess and didn't know how to react. The battle was over. You didn't need to try to kill him. Sasuke only scoffed at her question. This is the shinobi world. A little girl like you have no idea about the life we live. Besides, you're a princess. You were most likely sheltered from everything. The only thing good about you is to marry you off to someone like me. Pissing off many people. Arturia grip on her seat grumbled to dust. Makoto may not be her own daughter, but she saw her as her own no matter what. Just as she saw all the other girls that fell in love with her idiot as sisters. What is he doing? Minato thought angrily. The relationship was already bad from the beginning after discovering the truth, but his shinobi was now making it worse. All to fuel his ego and lust for power. Makoto was clearly angry about that comment. She knew far more than he knew. Her father was a shinobi once and told her and Mordred about how unethical it was to be a shinobi. Killing, kidnapping, torture, theft, and so much crimes would be considered legal if you simply paid money. It disgusted her and understood why her father hated that kind of life and wanted to avoid it like the plague. She knew that Oni did similar things, but it was towards bad guys, mostly, and it was done professionally and with valid reason. They didn't because they can or they were hired, they did it because they have reasons to believe that they pose a threat. The shinobi system would allow kids to perform such acts if they become a shinobi and sent on missions that require such a thing. It may seem unlikely, but all missions were accepted by the shinobi system. It only requires a fee. It was how war broke out in many of the smaller nations. The people with money hired shinobi to harm innocent people or attack people that got in the way of their goals. Thus causing more conflict in an already conflicted world. Shut up. Makoto shouted in anger and launched a stream of electricity at Sasuke. Sasuke couldn't dodge it because it moved faster than most lighting-based jutsu. He built up the strength to raise his sword and coated it with lighting chakra again to block the lighting. Now I'm angry. He glared at her with his red eyes. Your father should have taught you better. He charged at her with his sword ready. A few Konoha shinobi shouted at him to stop, but he ignored them. When he was within striking distance, something happened. He jumped back as soon as a wave of iron sand circled Makoto. Some of the Konoha shinobi and citizen were horrified by the scene. Sasuke was missing his right arm. The iron sand the Makoto generated with his mastery of electricity easily protected her. I won't allow someone hurt people that I care about. She shouted as she poured a strike of lighting from her arm at Sasuke. However, he reacted quickly enough to form a lighting sword to absorb and block the attack. She then increased the output to surround Sasuke, but at the same time, not attacking him. She was quickly generating enough heat to burn him, which caused him to scream in pain. She eventually stopped when Sasuke was covered in third-degree burns and he fell. To which many Konoha shinobi jumped down to check on him. Nice job, little sis. Mordred commented as she walked down towards her sister. She was proud that she fought to protect people. It was the reason why Makoto took an active role in anti-skill. A volunteer group security of Academy City. Academy City is one of the advanced city of Albion, but it also served as an education city. The city held the best schools for all career path and only the best, wealthy, and sometimes the lucky could get into. The anti-skill helped keep crimes down, and when students or individuals with magic or dukai go out of control, they would deal with them as well. Makoto smiled at her sister and gave her a hug. It seems that things were going to go out of hand. Enough. Gaara announced. I believe that an hour intermission is called for. With that, people began to back down and head to their respective group to discuss their actions. After Sasuke's behavior, the Hokage had no choice but to withdraw from the exam completely. He couldn't risk raising the already tense relationship they had with everyone. If he allowed his shinobi to continue the exams, then they would only show their anger of Konoha has for everyone that wasn't them, and considering how much people are at the exams, it won't end well for their future. After the hour break, the finals continued. It ended with the final match being between shinobis from Kumo. It was sort of expected due to their village being known to focus on the quality of a shinobi because they lack clans with Kekkei Genkai. Queen Pendragon. The Raikage called out after being congratulated by the other Kages for their victory. I wish to make a request from you. Speak and I shall consider it. She responded. I wish for your daughters to duel one another. Requested. Slightly shocking her to make such a request, of course she didn't show it. After witnessing Makoto's attack on Sasuke and Mordred killing of Konoha shinobi, both princesses shown immense combat prowess. It was a request that many would want her to agree to. No one was sure on the Albion's capabilities, but if the two princesses were to duel one another, it would give them an idea of their next generation's potential. I say let the two girls battle. Medusa commented. They constantly spar at home, and there won't be any danger if the two fight against one another. I can put an end to it if need be. She pointed out. Arturia was as capable at ending a fight between the girls as well. She wasn't going to deny the request as she agreed with Medusa's point. Arturia also saw that the shinobi world wouldn't take what they see as a young nation seriously. The lack of respect, honor, and their constant attempt to persuade them to aid them was clear about how they view them. It insulted her pride as a knight to not be taken seriously. I shall allow it. Makoto. Mordred. Arturia summoned her daughters. She then waited for the two to arrive. Mother. Mordred greeted with her hands behind her head. Aunt Arturia. Makoto greeted with a slight bow. How do you two feel about a duel with one another? She asked them. The two took a moment to think about it. That on it sounds interesting. Mordred and Makoto replied respectively. Both girls went to the stadium as Gaara made the announcement about a duel between the princesses. Everyone was excited to see those two. The two already displayed their power already and they wanted to see more. The two head towards the middle of the arena to face each other. Mordred then summoned her blade, Clarent, a magical sword that her father gave to her on her birthday. She leaned it on her right shoulder. I hope you're ready, little sis. I won last time. She said haughty. Makoto returned with her own smirk of confidence. Don't be too sure, big sis. I'm sure that I'll win this time. Arturia was between the two. Remember the rules of chivalry, girls. I wish you the best of luck. She parted them with a reminder about the code of chivalry. With that she left. It was very quiet as the two stare each other. The crowd was growing more excited as each second passed. Immediately Makoto sent a lightning strike at her sister who blocked it with Clarent. An obvious tactic. Mordred shouted at her. She channeled her prana to Clarent. She quickly disengaged with a bolt of lightning, then re-engaged before it hit her. Full counter. She shouted as the attack bounced and hit Makoto. A magic spell that she learned from the captain of the 7 deadly sins, Meliodas. Makoto ignored it because she is an electromaster, a master of electricity. Electric base attack will have very little effect on her. If you're using that spell, then she muttered as iron sand started to gather around her hand and form a whip. She then sent the iron sand whip at her sister. Mordred was surprised at the attack. She knew that her sister has the potential to be one of the best electromaster mage, but she still had trouble with controlling magnetic fields to create weapons. Shields and large waves slash, yes, but weapons or any small objects, no. She quickly formed up a silver gauntlet with red trim to catch it. Makoto started to look frustrated. That's new. Neat trick, but you'll need more to beat me. She began to reel her in, but the iron sand quickly dissolved and she almost tripped. You cheeky brat. She then charged at her. Makoto started to grin. To everyone's surprise, she started to sprout large white wings and float. Then higher till she was out of range. She was flying. How is that possible? Lunoki stuttered out. He only saw people flew when in airships or had wing attachment, such as the Dukai wings of anyone at or above a Du King. Makoto's wing was something he never saw. It was too different to the ones he saw. She managed to pull it off. Arturia commented. She knew that Rin was always tough on her lessons on magic. She tried to teach Makoto the Tasaka's brand of magic, jewelcraft, but she had little desire for it. Once it was discovered about Makoto's affinity to electricity, she taught her all she can. Arturia was the same with Mordred's lesson in swordsmanship and as a knight. Your Majesty. Lunoki called out to her. Why is her wings different? I only know that flying magic will produce wings, but those are unlike all that I have seen. He questioned, not fully understanding magic and Dukai. The power over electricity is powerful, yet difficult. If one knows about lighting magic and science, then many doors are open to them. Makoto was taught by her mother and a few others to harness both her ability of lighting electricity and science. Those wings are a visual aspect of her flying ability. You're wrong about it being magic wings that most common aerial magic uses. Through her electrical power, she induced electrolysis on water vapor in the air. She surrounded herself with large amount of atomized water vapor, which allows her to fly. Arturia explained. Only confusing them as science was something that Shinobi didn't bother to learn. She was the same once, but after doing most of the duties of her husband, who was hiding from his responsibility, she learned quite a lot about how their kingdom was advancing. If someone has a great deal of control on the element of lighting, they should be able to do the same things. Getting the Raikage's attention greatly. He was one of the best lighting users in the elemental nation, so if he went on to study science, he would be able to fly and most likely learn about more abilities to create through lightning. However, science was a dying art in the shinobi world as there isn't much need for it except biology, herbalism, and a few others. Makoto formed an iron sand sword and had it start to vibrate at a high frequency, making it similar to a chainsaw. She then flew down to strike her sister. Mordred responded with covering her entire body with her knight's armor as her instinct told her about the dangers that was coming. Then the two went into a melee. Enough. Mordred sent out a blast of magic forcing Makoto away and broke her concentration and she fell to the ground. Mordred's armor was all battered with a few pieces missing. She knew that her sister was more agile, it was the reason for the armor. Makoto only had a few bruises from the battle as she avoided most of her attacks. Mordred sent more prana to her armor to repair itself. It's time to end this. She stood and raised Clarent over her head as she dismissed her helmet. Red prana started to pour out of the sword split hilt. Everyone could feel the sheer power and it easily matched the Bijusa's power. That fact alone frightened the Kages due to their massive power. Makoto smirked as well. Her body started to produce a lot of electricity. She then reached for her pocket for something. It was a coin. More specifically, an arcade coin. This is getting out of hand. Minato shouted as the two's power was causing a powerful tornado and started to blow people back. Many civilians were afraid at the sheer power of two little girls. Are you kidding? This is the best part. Medusa said with a laugh. Now this was a proper match. Invil. Arturia called out. Your Majesty. Invil answered. End this. Right away. With that, the Winter General left to deal with the two girls having too much fun. Clarent. Love for my beautiful father. Mordred called out her most powerful spell and then began to bring it in. Makoto, at the same time, focused her powers into her right arm and flicked the coin up. As the coin was about to reach down and she was about to flick the coin at her sister. As well as Mordred sent the wave down at Makoto. Everything went cold. As in the two froze and the prana froze and fell straight to the ground. The entire arena was frozen, except for the girls. Makoto and Mordred began to look around, surprised at the new development. Girls. Invil called out seriously. Both froze. They knew that tone. They were in trouble. You shouldn't get carried away like that. He then gestured to the damage arena and scared people, yet they were amazed at the two girls. You forgot that the DDB isn't set up for your kind of duel. You could have killed each other. He pushed his glasses up. Ready to reprimand them. Both began to sweat and nervously chuckle. Sorry. I'm sorry for their actions, Gaara. They got carried away. Arturia apologized to him. It's fine. He responded. I understand that the girls get out of hand from time to time. He said with a small smile. Thank you. She then turned towards the other Kages. I know that every last one of you wished to form an alliance with my home. However, with the exams now over, I'm needed back in Camelot. There is still much to discuss. May pointed out. Her few talks with Arturia was about helping people. Kiri was one of the villages out of the war and could use the support to help rebuild her nation. The change to force upon her village got Arturia's interest. That is why I'll be offering you and the rest to come to Camelot during the Dragon Festival. Dragon Festival? Minato questioned. He still felt that he won't get the alliance, but if he spoke with others, he may get some help. It's a celebration that marked the end of the Unity War. Fighters from all around Albion fight in a contest to win a grand prize. It's a time of celebration, fun, and joy. You're welcome to visit Camelot during the time to continue any talks that we had. If you desire, you can enter the competition to win a reward. But that she left with Medusa right besides her before any of the Kages could question her. The time is close. Medusa told Arturia. To which she nodded solemnly. Naruto will be forced to face his past soon. Arturia responded. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.